So am I live right now? I can't even tell. Okay, sweet, I am live. Excellent. We'll just do playback. Check, check, check. We'll just do playback. Check, check, check. Okay, now that's gonna... I'm gonna hear that like 10 times in a row now. Alright, sweet. So, I've not done a live stream before, at least on YouTube. I've done Twitch stuff in the past, but... Well, it's been a while, to say the least. So, I think for anyone catching this at a later point in time, I'll put some timestamps in to kind of like flick through it. For anyone that's live, you can just kind of like ask questions and stuff as we go along, but... hopefully for anyone watching this later point in time, just check the video description. What I'll do is I'll add chapters, so if I talk about a specific subject for a specific length of time, so for example, the start of the video is mainly going to be covering setting up the introduction. So I've got a template for this, but that's not particularly useful for any individual because it's not, well, it's public, but for your specific unit or your mission, it's not really relevant. But I'll cover like making playable slots, the modules, how to use the HEV stuff, teleport scripts, stuff like that. Maybe a flight sequence, but anywho. So this is gonna be kind of like a series. I don't know how long it'll go on for. It'll basically be whenever I have free time. So that could be quite few and far between because basically my work situation is changing. So it means that I'm no longer be able to dedicate the amount of time that I was previously dedicating towards making missions. But you know, I'll still do it when I can, basically. But you know, the main thing is what you've got to do is first of all find a map of the workshop. Now I've picked out a few that I've not used before, so it gives me kind of like a fresh perspective. So if I add a source real quick, here we go. So easy way to, you know, I'm assuming that anyone watching this has like the bare minimum experience with like how to use the editor and stuff like that. So I'm not going to worry about people that don't know how to install mods in their game. Unfortunately, if you're looking for like a step-by-step tutorial on how to install mods and stuff like that, probably not the video for you, but regardless. So you go on your workshop, you know, you presumably got your mod pack or whatever installed already. Just hop on down to the terrains category right now. Have a scroll through, see what ones pick your fancy. You know, in my opinion, looking for a map that fits the vibe of the mission is paramount. So for example, because we are a Halo unit, I generally look for either maps that fit in that specific spec. So I wouldn't use any maps that have like World War II German bunkers and stuff like that, because it's, or thatched houses and stuff like that, because I personally don't believe that really gives off that aspect. What we're looking for is mostly let me see if I can switch tabs real quick. So, like Halo Mombasta. So these styles of buildings. So let me see if I can. So I'm talking about like urban, like these type of buildings, basically. So there's already a few that Demonic has made. But basically, when I'm looking for maps, it's got to include kind of like these style of buildings. It's a personal preference, but like the oldest ones is what I'm saying. So like, if I spawn in a, let's see, I spawn in one of these houses, or let's see, just something that gives off this aesthetic. It kind of helps blend that world together. So you're looking for a map that kind of encompasses that world building, because I mean it's the same reason why I never got into Star Wars with units, because a lot of them, they kind of like don't have that Star Wars kind of like theme to them. It's just clones fighting on random areas of the map that don't really like fit into the theme of the unit. So With Halo, it's a little more forgiving because these type of buildings, for example, the concrete and the tiled roofs and stuff like this, it has a similar sort of vibe to something like this, where it's a bit more forgiving, you know what I mean, with the tiled roofs and stuff like that. So that doesn't look too jarring out of place next to each other. But something like let me try and think of a building that looks terrible. So no, that's all modded stuff. Let's see. More like European houses is what I'm saying. So like these ones, these are also kind of fine because it gives off that kind of like New Mombasa style. So anything that's kind of like this, it's a similar style. You can kind of incorporate it into that environment as well. But something like this, for example, I wouldn't personally use this because it's a very European style house. So personally for me, these type of buildings, I mean the burnt down ones don't look too bad. I've used these in the past for like crashed pelicans and stuff, but as a general like rule of thumb, I try to avoid using it just to give that aesthetic. So when I go through these maps and stuff like that, what I'll do is I'll look for maps that either incorporate those or don't. So this one, for example, is a nice one. It doesn't have too many or none at all actually like building assets. It's just an island, some nice trees and stuff like that. But really what you do is you just got to download the maps off the workshop and kind of explore them before you even start to think about like making a mission, because you don't even know. Like I go into mission making with a completely fresh mind. I might have like a general idea of what I want to happen, but typically what I'll do is like I'll think of a mission based around the terrain itself. So for example, this mission, because it's got this nice open highway section, what I could possibly do is incorporate the elephants. We've done this once in the past, but excuse me one sec. But this would be a perfect map for employing like elephants, because the road is wide enough for it. It'd be nice to do kind of like a convoy mission. I did this one on one of the Global Ops trains, so this could be another map that would be kind of like perfect for this type of thing, where you're escorting an elephant along the highway. Maybe you have to like stop and divert and do something else, but you know, maybe your objective is to get to from I-8 west and to I-8 east. So you know, have a look around, see what's on the map. Maybe this could be changed into like a insurgent stronghold, so there could be some wrecks on the road. You got to stop here. Really, you're only limited by your own creativity and imagination. So, what's more to say, really? But if I just have a look at a few of the other maps that I've downloaded recently, because again, I'm going into this with a completely fresh perspective, right? I've not. Oh, excuse me. The display capture is in front of the game one, so it may not have been showing all that. But yeah, so this is another map that I thought looked kind of interesting. I don't know what it is, but I think they've just taken like Google Maps and copied and pasted it into the map. Because none of these obviously have any fucking any houses in them. But you know, there are still avenues where it could be used, because I mean, from a ground perspective like this, you're not going to really see any of that details anyway, so it doesn't necessarily matter too much. But yeah, I was thinking maybe this one would be kind of nice to have like a falcon insert or something, because the trees, it's all very low ground. But now that I look into it a bit more, I'm not too sure that this is something that I really want to use, because it does seem quite sparse. No, so I'll leave this one. It looked better in the preview images. Not to say that any of these maps are bad. It's just it's not good for what I want out of a map. Let's see. I downloaded a bunch of them. This one is something that also looks quite interesting. Yeah, so perhaps this could be like a an insert on the beach, and then we got to fight our way up. We did a mission like this previously, so I can already see like this would be perfect for that style of mission as well. So potentially what we'd do is we'd have our Halberd composition like up here on the top left, so it's out of sight, and then we do a falcon insert onto the beachhead right here, which is kind of what I would like to do. It looks like this map doesn't really have a great deal of structures on it. It's just terrain, which is both a plus and a minus. Plus means that I don't have to do a bunch of hiding objects, but a minus in the fact that like everything that I place down structure-wise is going to have to be custom built, which is very time consuming. I as an individual are quite detail focused, so what I tend to do is I put a ridiculous amount of time into detailing the worlds, and the more detail that you put into the world, the more laggy the mission gets. So it's a lot of time, but you know, it just looks a little more convincing for an immersive environment than just plopping down like a turret and that's it. But I think what I'll do is I'll use this map. I'll just focus on kind of like the initial staging area. So I could do a bit of detail work over here, but I think for the moment what I'll do is I'll focus down here. But let me just check the other maps real quick, the other ones that download, and see if there's any better ones. I think the majority of these are ones that I've already got installed, but there was a couple of new ones, so I'm just trying to find them. Proving Grounds is a small one, very infantry focused, but I don't want to use that quite yet. I've got plans for that in a future mission. Fjord is a really nice map, very Reach-esque style, so if you're interested in doing like a Reach campaign, that's a really nice one. Firebad, that was one that we did for the Elephant Run. Secundus, that's good for like space missions where you do EVA type missions. It's a lot of fun. I'd stay away from using Iskria and Bukovia, the Chernarus maps. They just don't really give that Halo vibe to me personally. Arcadia is a good one for like doing anti-insurgency stuff. Bobo is really good for doing a mix of both, because it has that kind of like mix of destroyed terrains. I've used that one a lot. Okay, I think what I'll do is I'll go for Mount Laguana. Is that how you say it? I know we don't really have many of them in the UK as far as I'm aware, so never been able to pronounce that one. So I think what I'll do is I'll do kind of like a similar one to what I did before, where we're going to be protecting an elephant convoy as it goes through the highway section. So this would be using insurgents basically. So I definitely want to use this map for that purpose. But again, it's just looking around and taking in the map and seeing what you can use. So also side routes, lots of hills and stuff where the insurgents could hide around. Quite easy to optify, and what I mean by optify is where I mean Halofy. So Optre is the leading Halo mod. So what you'd do is you try to change the map or spice it up a little bit so it gives that kind of like Halo aspect. And the easiest way to do that is honestly just to slap down a bunch of these large windmills, because they look really cool in the distance. And they're the ones that appeared in the Halo Reach intro. So in the distance when you're driving along, it kind of gives off a small but easy recognizable asset. Another one is the farmhouses. These ones in particular, they don't have to be enterable, but you just place them in an area that if you're driving past, you can see it on the skyline. It kind of gives that Halo vibe to it. But you can go crazy with the detail work. I mean, if I just show let's see, if I show like an upcoming mission, like a little teaser of what you can do to kind of like fully optify a town. This is just using the Porto map, so let me make it day real quick. But in the mission itself, it would be like a nice kind of like rainy environment. So this is one that I just spent some time building. You can see all the props and stuff like that, but the idea is that you fly in or boat in or whatever, and you proceed through the mission. This mission is basically the insurgents have taken over an embassy within a town, so we're being sent in to go get the HVT, right? So we got to fight our way through the town. It gives that kind of like nice Halo Mombasa style. There's lots of detail work in the form of like these garbage against the wall and stuff like that. It just adds a little more to the environment than just slapping down a bunch of houses. You don't necessarily need to go to such detail length as me. Again, it does like increase the demand on performance. So if you've got a lot of people, a lot of assets already, so like if you play as a large company orientated unit, so you've got like 40 people and you encompass like air assets and tanks and all this stuff, probably not the mission for you. This is specifically for infantry focus units, but I mean there's stuff that you can take away from it anyway. My opinion in regards to those type of missions is that they are great. The combined arms gameplay is really, really cool, but it means that you do have to sacrifice some of the detail work and some of the immersion to kind of like maintain that, and not to get too crazy. So for example, I built this town, right? But if you had an aircraft in, they'd be able to first see everything on the map, but they would also see a lot of jank, because just like in the Halo games and any sort of like game developer, what they'll do is you'll have your playable area, especially if it's more of a linear route that you're taking. So you'll have your route that you're going to be taking, and then you hide detail behind it. So because I know that no infantry is ever going to be over here, I can absolutely scuff up this area with floating objects, objects inside of other objects, because it doesn't matter, because nobody is going to be on top of this wall to see that. Now, in fact, it would be different if I was going to go through here, right? Because then I'd have to decorate all this. But it's just a sneaky way that you can get around that, and that's why I really like infantry-focused units. And also, generally, why I try and avoid giving people like Huntai rounds for the grenade launchers, for the exact same reason, right? Because you can just fire it up in the air and see all that jank. But from an infantry's perspective on the ground, they're never going to see that. So you can do a lot of cheeky kind of like hiding of the map assets and stuff like that, where you can still get this like really nice skyline, but the jank isn't seen. So, and if you want to see what the map looked like before, if I just open that up, this is what it looked like before. So, you know, completely different, night and day difference. You know, you got the Tether over there, the big city, all these Mombasa houses in there, gone. So you can kind of see the difference about optrification and halofying your environment. Because, I mean, you could still use this map in a mission, right? But it literally just looks like an Arma 2 map ported over, which it is. You know, nothing's changed to it. All you're going to be doing here is doing a bit of CQC. You know, it takes away from that experience, in my opinion. So, anyway, that's kind of like a tangent. There'll be a lot of tangents. I'll just ramble on. So, let's see. I said I was going to use the highway one, but I think I might save that one, because I definitely want to show off the Insertion, like the aircraft flight sings, because UnitCapture is a really cool thing, especially if unit either deliberately or doesn't have the manpower for pilots. Ours, we have people that could fly, myself included, but it's a deliberate choice not to use aircraft in missions. So I'll use this one. I'll do some light decoration, but this first stream, it's going to be like an hour and a half long. I don't have a great deal of time. It'll just show you how to set up the basics, and then go on from there. But I want to do a whole series of these. Again, there'll be chapters and stuff. I'll fill it in later in the description. You can skip through if needed. So, the Havok Company Halberd template is a public resource that anyone can use. It's mainly made for our mission makers, but you can set these up in your own units as well. You don't need to if you don't, but it just makes it easier to set up like the very first part of the mission, especially if you just like in a Halo unit, right? Typically you'll spawn in either on the ground or on a ship or something like that. So for anyone that wants to use the ship composition, basically it means that you don't have to spend the first like 30 minutes to an hour setting up this whole environment with all the playable slots, with all the you know, all the scripts, all the modules and stuff like that. It's all done for you. So I highly recommend creating one of these for your own unit if you don't have it already. You can hide some stuff around, like cheeky little billboards and stuff with custom textures. I won't go into that today. I'll show you how to like import a custom texture, but if you don't have a unit PBO and don't already know how to set up images, it's not really the topic that I can cover today in great length, and there is already resources available. But yeah, this is great because it just means that you spawn in the ship layers all the same. We'll go get our briefing, and then depending on the method of deployment, sometimes we'll use drop pods, sometimes we'll use aircraft. You know, it's all set up here, and because it's all folded neatly on the left hand side here, so I've created an initial layer, and then I've just created additional subfolders, so it's all categorized away. So if I don't use pelicans in a mission to save on resources, all I have to do is type in pelican and then delete the pelican teleport, and that gets rid of all of the pelican assets, right? So if I'm not using this in a mission, there's no point in having it here because none of the guys are going to see it. It's a tax on resource, so you just delete it, right? But again, to save on time, all of this is already in the missions, so that if someone needs to use it, they just pick and choose what they want. So it's my little method for helping our fellow mission makers out. But you know, you don't have to spawn in a ship, you don't have to set all this stuff up. Easy way to do landings is to just use these military cargo pieces. Excuse me, I can't type for shit today. Yeah, so these military cargo ones are ones that I like to use a lot. Not necessarily these ones, the actual like containers things. They're fine, but again, trying to maintain that kind of Halo aspect. These ones are great because you can basically set up like landing zones. You can change the position of the legs, rotate the panels, hide the panels if you want. So you know, you can really create like these really nice FOBs. So this is not what I've created myself, but it's one that I've used in the past. It's kind of like one of the infinite star ones. So you can see what you can kind of do. So let's say if I was spawning on the ground, I might just, as an ease of use, just spawn one of these in, and this will be our starting point. Because it depends on the whole point of your spawn area. Is it literally just a spawn in and then you're going and you're not using it again? In which case, you don't really have to be too crazy. You can, if it's like a tip of the spear mission where you're going to go over that hill, right, and then you're going to immediately in contact. You can just have like a line of vehicles here and an arsenal. It can be as simple as that, or as crazy as you need it to be. But you know, there's compositions on the workshop that you can use, some really nice ones. I'm not too familiar on who this one is. Oh, it says Killer One. So yeah, if he's made this, then he's probably also made some nice ones as well. But let's go back to the Halberd template, and I'll just very quickly explain how you'll set all that shit up. So you'll need a mod pack, obviously. So ours is public, but you know, these obviously use specific pieces. So this one uses the DMS destroyer. Other ones work as well. There's plenty of ship variants out there, so it doesn't really matter. It's just an example. You don't have to do this one-to-one exactly how I'm doing it, right? So this one is in the UNSC Foundries. So that's a cool mod. It's got a lot of like custom UNSC items and stuff. We really like using the ship. The doors are a little janky because what they do is they have a very poor LOD, so they'll despawn at a certain distance. But it's not a huge deal. I understand why it's like that. It's just conserve performance. So it is what it is. But yeah, depending on where you want to spawn in the ship, we use the downstairs area because that's where all the like drop pods are. It's a great starting point for it because you've got the barracks here. You can use this as like a medical room if you wanted. You could use this as like the armory because it's obviously an armory. And then you know, you could have a second spawn here. So if you wanted the two squads to spawn separately, or you know, two platoons or whatever, you can fit a lot of people in these. So you know, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, so 24 people per room. Yeah, there's a lot of room. You could even have like, I think down here there's oh no, these are just HEV bays, but our ship set layout is we all spawn in the same room, so we spawn here in the barracks. We'll get out, we have the right, which is the medical bay, so this acts as our respawn area. and then we've got the arsenals like right in front of it, right here. So basically, you'll spawn. Oh, my nice music has stopped. Oh, it's playing in 4K. That's why. I guess I don't need this to play in 4K, right? There we go. So, where was I? Yeah. So the reason I put the medical bay here is because it acts as a respawn point, and it also acts as like a healing area. So you can have a guy here that has a script, so that when you go and talk to him, for example, it gives you a full ace heal. That way Zeus's don't get bothered, accidents do happen, you know, people do fuck around, so it's understandable that that stuff happens, but no Zeus wants to be pinged because Marine number 1 has hit Marine number 2 with a sword because they were joking around and now they need a Zeus heal. So setting that stuff up, you know, it gives that little bit of pressure off the mission maker so that they can focus on other more important matters. But I mean, ideally, if your unit is not too shitposty, that's just stuff you avoid entirely, right? But let's get the playable slots down. So what you can do, it doesn't really matter what Blue 4 units you use. The NATO ones work quite well, but let's get our rifle squad first. So these are just generic, you know, riflemen. You got your squad leader, ammo bearer, also rifleman, combat lifesaver, marksman, rifleman AT, and rifleman and team leader. Now our structure doesn't work like that, so I'm just going to delete that. I'm going to spawn in basing off our roster. So you'll obviously change this depending on, you know, what you need it to be. But let me see, where's the NATO? I'll actually go down to the individual category first. So we've got so many unit mods. Squad leader. So you want to start off with a squad leader. Obviously the squad leader is the squad leader, so the primary slot. After that, I usually go with the team leader, or in our case, this would be the fire team leader. And what I'll actually do is I'll move these to a separate area of the map, just so I can lay it out a little clearer, more visually and easy to see. Best place to do this is honestly VR, because it's a completely flat area. So you got your squad leader, your team leader. You know, screw it, I'll just have them face the same direction so I can not fuck around with the rotation stuff. So you got your squad leader, team leader, and then we've got a medic. So this would be a combat lifesaver. I believe that the combat lifesaver already comes under the, if you use ACE, which I think most units do. Yeah, so it's a regular medic, but you can fuck around with the if you need it to have like Dr. Perms or something like that, depending on your unit's needs. So in our unit, what we do is we have the squad leader and the corpsman as together. So in the playable slots, the first unit that you place down will be the first slot in the server that you can see, and then each individual unit that you group to that individual will be next in line. So if I show you, for example, the squad leader has been grouped to the combat lifesaver, the medic has been grouped to the squad leader, and now I'm grouping the team leader to the squad leader. So in line, it's 1, 2, 3. Now if I just go into the multiplayer tab, so you can see the role selection. Oh, I need to make them playable units. Yeah, so you need to right click, go to attributes, and click this button here. That makes these individuals playable. So now when I go to the multiplayer tab, you can see squad leader, combat lifesaver, and then team leader. And then their group is called Alpha 11, but you can change that very easily. So I just open up the squad leader, and then inside the role description, I would just put squad leader at 1-1, for example. And now if I go back into multiplayer tab, you can see that 1-1 has their own little category there. The guy's called squad leader, and you can do this for every role. Only the primary role, the primary unit within the squad, needs to have the squad leader at, or the unit designation at, because it basically the 1-1 is what comes after the at, and then the name of the unit itself is on the left. So, for example, if I wanted to change the corpsman, because we call them corpsmen, not combat lifesavers, all I would do here is just turn this to corpsman, and then instead of team leader, I'll just put it to fire team leader. Right? So you get squad leader, corpsman, fire team leader in that right. Now, if your unit runs specific slots, so you always have these these MOSs in these slots, so for example, like if you've always got grenadiers, it's good to have them named so that those individuals can slot into those. Excuse me. So that those individuals can slot into those roles quickly. But what I usually do is, because our unit runs things quite flexibly, I just have rifleman roles, bog standard rifleman roles. So what I'll do is I'll just have so we got the squad leader, combat lifesaver, and now we're on the team leader. So rifleman, 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 rifleman. Because we have 4 people under the team leader. Now I connected to the team leader, but basically what that does is just puts them under the same squad. If I put the team leader after these guys, because I'm going to have to duplicate this now, so if I just copy and paste that, move these guys into position a little better so I can visualize it. There we go. So now if I connect team leader to squad leader, if I go back into multiplayer tab, I've not made them playable slots again, hang on. There we go. So now you can see that they're all lined up nicely. So 1-1 has a squad leader, has a corpsman, a fire team leader, the people under that fire team leader, then he's got the second fire team leader, and so forth. And now basically you just copy and paste that however many times you've got, changing the unit designation as needed. So for example, we've got 2 squads. We're also going to need some officers, because these are our unit leadership, right? So we've got NATO men, officer, officer, and officer. So actually there's 4 of us. So you got the commanding officer at HQ. That sets the unit type as well as the group type. We've got the executive officer. Then he gets connected to commanding officer. We've got the platoon sergeant. He then gets connected to the officer. And then we've got, I need to actually make this guy a corpsman, so let me just pick this guy from earlier. Boop, 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 and boop. So now what it looks like is, I didn't make them playable slots again. Okay, I need to get into the habit of this, but hopefully you'll be more on the ball than me. I'm just trying to very quickly get through everything, because I really don't like having to spend too much time on this. So we've got a HQ element that's just down here, that's below the 1-1. I don't personally like that layout, because I believe that it should be HQ, 1-1, 1-2, and then maybe like any external slots, so it's very easy to navigate. Easy way to do this is just to place all the slots down that you need. If you're more aware of things ahead of time, you can obviously set up how you like, but just delete the, or not delete, copy and paste the, yeah, so, excuse me, I'm not explaining this very well. So just delete the, make sure you copy it first, but delete the 1-1 and 1-2 markers. 1-1 and 1-2 groups, so now you've just got the officers. So now they are basically the only units, since they're going to appear in the top of the leaderboard, right? Top of the playable slots. So I'll call these guys HQ, just so I can separate them easier. So now I'll get 1-1, and I'll just change the if you use it freely and enhance the lobby editor that allows you to arrange them without needing to do that. Well, that's good to know. That's yeah, so this I know things, okay, but this is by no means the best tutorial. It's just my method of doing things. I'm really glad to know that, because that helps things a lot. But since I've already got a composition about this, I'm not too worried about it, because what I'd usually do is I just go into the Halberd composition, spawn the units in, and do it that way. But now you can see that I've got the HQ at the top, then 1-1, and then you'd have 1-2, and then you usually stroll after that. So you got your roles all set up. What I'll do to save me playing around with that, I'll just spawn in my my company, my template. If we were baking, I say here's one I made earlier, right? So again, what I would do is once I've got all my playable units slotted out and nicely organized, I would put them into a folder so that if you need to move them around, you can just select the folder, which you can very easily do, by the way. If you look on the left side of the interface, you've got a new layer here, and that creates a layer, and then you can just name that. So Playable Slots, for example, you just drag and drop all your blue 4 guys into those, and then what you can just do is you just type for that. Just makes it very easy. Same thing with like making I appreciate that, Cracker. I appreciate that. I'm always looking for new better ways to make my missions, so that's good to know. I wish I'd known it before I'd set all this up, because that would have saved some time, but since I've already got a template, it's not a huge deal. So I've got my playable slots here. Here's one I made earlier, like I say. So basically what this looks like in our slotting section is we've got the HQ, we've got the 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, because we have a specific amount of reservist units, any guests that you want set up, and you can set it up like that. Now, for Zeus's, what you'll need to do is... Did I add in? Yeah, so you need to add in the module section, the system section over here. If you just search for Game Master, it's called Zeus, it's called Game Master, it's whatever you want it called. Our call sign is Goliath, so basically all you do is you put down whoever you want to be the mission controller. So in the mission itself, these are the people that would go into the Zeus interface and like spawn additional units or like execute scripts and stuff like that. You just connect it, sync it to the individual unit. Another way to do this is just set the owner. So this guy, for example, one of the officers, the planning officer, this is an individual who is a backup. I want to be the Zeus, just in case the Zeus itself is unavailable, or sometimes it's just nice to have that another person, that trusted individual that you can rely on to like spawn additional enemies. Stone is a person that I rely on to help me with like defensive waves, so that whilst I focus on keeping 1-1 busy, he can help keep 1-2 busy. So it kind of like it focuses our area of attention and just makes things flow a lot easier. So because he's called Z2 in the variable name, what you can do is in the game master thing, you just select the owner to Z2, Z_2, or however you've got it named conventionally wise. Select the default add-ons and make sure you've got the all add-ons, including unofficial ones, because if this is not selected, it means that they won't be able to spawn the workshop content in, or fuck around with any of that. Other than that, you know, you've got your basic loadouts that you can select. So within the Edit Arsenal section, you can customize your guys however you want. What I usually do is I just spawn them in like empty BDU kits, and then just have them like run up to get their gear from the arsenal, right? That's just how we roll. But if you wanted to have like each individual role, so if you knew, like I said earlier, all of your ARs are consistent and everyone turns up every week for an AR, you have a dedicated AR role. What you could do to save time is in the loadout section, you could create an AR loadout, and that way they don't have to go to the arsenal at all, right? Most people do. They like our unit, for example, has a bunch of cosmetics, so at the end of the day, people just kind of like will go to the arsenal and they'll select the kit anyway. But this could be a good way to set it up so that if someone spawns in an AR role, you know, they just grab the kit from the base spawn template, and then that's what they use. You can do this further with the arsenals as well, which I'll discuss a little bit later, but you can actually have a loadouts SQF file inside the mission file directory, where basically what you can do is you can scroll on the arsenal and select a basic kit. Now what that'll do is it'll then spawn you with that basic kit. So for example, I only use a rifleman basic kit in our arsenals, and then I just let people kind of like pick what they want. So it's very easy, because all you just have to do, if you were like an AR or something, you just switch out the main gun, change the ammo, and that's it, you're done, right? So there's no real need to have that, but it could be very useful in the terms of like if you had a corpsman role, so you can just grab that base kit real quick. But anyway, now you got your playable units, great. We'll spawn back in our little ship. You don't have to use the ship, but you know, for the purposes of the demonstration, this is what we use. So I'm just showing how I replicate that process, make it easy for all your mission makers out there. So you line them up however you want. Again, because this is one I used earlier, I have earlier created. It's all lined up neatly, but just position them accordingly. You can click this button at the top here, by the way, to snap them to the ground and the object, which makes it very easy to kind of like position people on these surfaces. Because obviously if I have this turned off, I can place it in there and then they're going to like spawn halfway in the ground, so it can cause some issues. But now that we got our guys spawned in, let me just level these guys out a little bit better. And this is why I recommend doing it in the VR, because these guys are floating now. I'm not going to individually move all these guys down, but pretend they're attached to the ground, right? That's why I recommend doing it in VR, because it's a completely flat surface, right? So now that you've come out, you got your barracks sorted. This would be kind of like the area that you'd use to, you know, sort out your controls, you know, your TeamSpeak and stuff like that. You come out, barracks across the way, right? So let's get a standard box. You can use any asset. It doesn't matter at all. You could use an ice box if you wanted. Not really something that we want though. It doesn't really go into the whole military vibe, does it? Just picking your gear out the icebox. But I don't know. Maybe some units use that. But point is, you can use any object you want within reason. Some ones don't accept them as arsenals. You just kind of have to play around. But if I type in ODST, here we go. So weapon heavy crate. What we can use is the weapon heavy crates. These are the ones that I personally really like using, because what you can do is you can open up the racks and then there's like a bunch of weapons in there. But you can double as an arsenal as well. So what you'll do is just double click the crate, go to the Ace Arsenal, and this is where the fun begins, right? Because you've got to individually add every weapon that you want to whitelist into the arsenal. This is very time consuming, so I won't do this here and now, but basically just start with your uniform. What I suggest, you know, the uniforms that you're going to use. So for example, if we were a marine unit, we would probably just want to use the CH252 helmets in Ice Beast. So what I would just do is I'd select these, I'd use the arrow keys to make it easier, but you can just double click these as well. It's just a little more time consuming, so I use the directional arrow keys, and I would just add the individual assets to the arsenals. So do that for however many you want. The good thing with the arsenal is that these items are infinite, but if you wanted to have a different way of doing things, what you can do is you can have in the equipment storage option. I don't think it works with this one because it's not like a box, but it's not like a crate, unless I'm missing something obvious. You can set the quantity, so if you only want there to be 100 magazines in a mission, right? And you got to, this would be like the really hardcore units. I don't think anyone would use this, but maybe there's a mission that would need it. So you can select the specific amount of ammo in the box. So you could have 100 magazines of that specific ammo type for that specific weapon, and then you'd have to share that between the platoon, which could be a very interesting way to run a unit. That, you know, you would really harp on the ammo conservation and the sharing of resources, but you'd also have, like, I imagine a couple gremlins that would like steal 5 extra mags, and then you got this one poor guy that only has 2. I imagine that's a very likely scenario that happens. But again, here's one I made earlier. So if I go back into my Halberd template, I've got my, again, I would definitely recommend setting these up in folders. So just like I showed earlier, I've set my arsenals up into a folder, so if I need to, all I would do is just copy and paste it. So, oh, that's it. There we go. Boop, boop. And now I've got my arsenal box, right? So, all our gear for the unit is located in here. So, the box over here lists all the items that can be taken out. You can see it took a while to set up, but once you get the basics in, that's it. You know, you save this and then you just override it every time there's a change. So the only time when we really update this now is when we've got new custom armor. That's the pretty much only thing that changes. So you can see Cooper's here got added. That's not something I've been on top of. It got added last week. But what I've got is, if I just save this as a mission. So going back to the reason why I'd used a virtual reality is because as an independent mission, you can just save all these assets in that mission, and then when you need to update it, all you do is you go down, you select the gear, and then, you know, you edit the arsenal. So all of these are arsenal boxes with those specific gears that I've just gone through and demonstrated how to set up. So I would just go to my uniform section. I would add whatever or remove in the case that you wanted to remove something. So Cooper's custom needs to be added. I just do that. I close off that. I'll collapse it. No, I'll collapse it. I'll expand it all. I'll select the company Halberd template, all my folders and subfolders, which you can see if I didn't subfolder these out and had that open. Plus, this is just the spawn area, right? You can imagine the amount of assets that are in a mission. If this was just all over the place, you'd have no chance at trying to organize and like move stuff around. You just have to kind of like open up the Eden map and select it all. But anyway, so I'll just save it as a custom composition. And I recommend what you do is you just do this for your unit so that you can share it out. And it just makes it easier to kind of like plop down and update as needed. So I'm going to overwrite my composition. So now that Halberd template is updated with that arsenal change, I'll click my Halberd template, and then I'll just, if you want to make a new one, all you have to do is so it's a custom composition, so now you just publish it and then you type in the details up there. But because I've already made one, I'm just going to click that and update it. But it's very, very simple, very intuitive to set up. Nothing to it at all. So I'm just going to update that. It'll publish to the Scene Workshop. You can make this public, private, unlisted, however you want. Ours is public, so anyone can use it. But it does require, specific mods, so it's a very small file as well. You can add the dependencies inside the edits. Not edit. Where is it? I'm missing something. Oh, it's because I'm not. Oh, I am signed in. Oh, there we go. Add required items, and then to make it easy for anyone else that wanted to use it. Generally, your unit, right? They're already going to have the mod pack in, but if you wanted to make your stuff available for anyone else, I'd recommend like listing what dependencies are needed. So if your arsenal or your ship layout or whatever, your composition itself requires a specific item in order to spawn it in, for ease of access for everyone, including yourself, just list what's required down here, and you can select this from the items that are subscribed to make it a lot easier, right? So these are all the mods. Just go through the list. Done. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to go back to the demo mission. Let me pour myself a drink real quick. Alright, so now we've got our arsenal sorted. You can decorate the ship however you want. I usually place a bunch of these around, so if you can imagine with like 30 people all logging in at the same time and trying to cluster around one arsenal. Not ideal, right? So just plop a few down in reasonable locations. This ship is great. It has a bunch of like caveats, or not caveats, a little like indents in the wall where you can like fill these in. So you can put as many as you want down. It doesn't really matter too much. What I'd recommend doing is just playtesting mission, making sure these don't like, because if it's in the wall a bit, it's gonna absolutely freak out and it could fly off, it could break. So just go into the playtest session, see if these like muss around. You can also go into the attributes and under the special state section, you've got enable simulation. Now what that'll do is that'll just freeze the object there, but it won't be interactable. Arsenals are fine, but just be cautious about using the enable simulation, because if you need that asset to be interactable, it means it won't be. So vehicles and stuff, if you disable a simulation, they won't be able to be entered or exited, but we'll go on to that in a minute. After that, grab your respawn point. One problem with this ship is that occasionally what will happen is, because it's so high up in the air, right, what I usually do is I just lower it down, because you're not going to see down there unless you like use the hangar, because what it'll do is it'll spawn you mid-air. Now there's a module called Freefall Fix, where I can basically set the freefall zone and the global freefall limit. So even if I spawn this like 1,000 meters in the air, I'm not going to spawn in parachuting or freefalling. But the respawn position here is a little finicky to set up, which is why what I do is I just click the respawn, but then what I'll use is a what's it called, cargo, yeah, one of these platforms with the what's it called, the shield, the panels, there we go, with these disabled, and then I'll just anything that's going to be like floating midair, I'll just raise it up slightly so that it's just hidden by the ground, and then I'll just slap the respawn point on that, so that in the event that the ship composition doesn't work or whatever, that panel basically acts as a safe zone. So they'll spawn on the platform, maybe not on the ship, but they won't fall through the ship. So that's the main thing, right? So you can use that as a little trick for spawning midair. It does look jank from the outside occasionally, but you know, who's going to be around the back of the ship to see these two tiny little poles? And again, we're an infantry-focused unit, so we don't really deploy from the hangar all that often. You know, your mileage may vary. As for detail work and stuff like that, it doesn't really matter. I'm not going to go super hard on the detailing because I just want to get the like initial ship composition done to kind of show you guys how to set that up. But you can get your stretchers in, maybe like a few medical cabinet. It doesn't really matter too much. The only reason someone would be in here is like if they got killed or something in the arsenal because they threw a frag grenade at their feet, so, or they're messing around. But, you know, you got a bunch of like props and stuff like that. So these are op tray cabinets, but there's a bunch of like nice assets. You just kind of have to explore through the various sections. It is overwhelming at the start. I 100% understand how hard it can be to kind of sort through, but the search bar does make it handy. So if you can't find anything under container or like medical cabinet, try container, try crate, stuff like that, varyings of the word, and you should find what you're looking for. The more you do mission making, you'll just kind of like know where stuff is eventually. Another cool note is that if you know something is under a certain mod and you can't find it under here because it might be under like the mod might be called like Halo assets, really cool assets, but the actual like in the prop section it's not called that, it's called like fences. It doesn't really help you. You can sort by clicking down the drop menu. So for example, if I just sort by in enhanced objects, it's only going to show me assets from that mod. So you know, just to help like find stuff a little easier. Now what I usually do is in here, you can have a radial trigger if you want, so basically anyone that comes in here will get an instant heal, but I like it the way we've got it set up, where you've got to go and interact with an individual. So if I, you know, pretend this guy's like a corpsman or something, we can something I'd really recommend doing is, by the way, in the loadout section, strip some poor guy's gear on the playable slots, and then save that loadout as a completely empty thing, because it makes it so much easier to like play around with AI assets and stuff like that and uniforms, because then you don't have to like individually strip all those. You've got a loadout that does it all for you, just like that. So little top tip there. But let's see, dress uniform is a good one. So you can see that we use a mod that's called Extended Arsenal. So it basically has these like buttons that you can press. It's both a positive and a negative, because it means that you have to find the original like if I search for medical dress, this wouldn't come up under medical dress. I'd have to click on the military dress uniform and then select the medic one. It's a bit of a double-bladed knife in the fact that, you know, if you've got custom armor, like our unit, if I scroll down to this, so for our purposes, you know, we've got the uniform, the base uniform, but then we've also got blood types. Now, usually in an armor mission, if it wasn't set up with the extended arsenal, which I'm sorry, I can't go over that right now, but I'll just explain briefly how it works. You'd usually see like AB Pods, A negative, A positive in a big list down here. Just by clicking these items, it just puts it into little tabs down here at the bottom and just makes it easy to kind of like flick through. so you can see how many customs. You know, you've got like 30 people, 40 people in the unit. The amount of like customs you'd have to scroll through in order to find stuff. But then if you're trying to find like other stuff, it can be a little frustrating at times. But you know, your mileage may vary, as I said earlier. So we've got a medical officer right here. Just make sure that that's because it's not a playable object to uncheck player and playable. Now I don't know exactly off the top of my heart what this script is. So I made it earlier. Yeah, so you can just, I'll put this in the description or something. It is on the workshop as well, but basically it just calls an add action, which is like when you go up to an item and it has like a little text, so that when you interact with the text, that's what this is. So it has an action that says click to heal, but I can change that to anything. That's the hex code for the color, so it'll click to heal. It sets the player damage to 0, and then it sets the player the 8 medical and gives them a full heal. Now you don't need this line as well. This is just something I added in. If you want to add voice lines that basically says hold still, I'll see what I can do, or that's what we have. Just adds a little bit of an immersion rather than just going up and instantly getting healed. But this one's complicated. I won't go individually about what all this means. As long as you just copy and paste this as it is, it'll work fine. The voice line won't say. So you just put this inside the object or the whatever you want to be interacted, right? It doesn't have to be a guy, it could be anything. It could be a flagpole. Just make sure that if it's going to be one of these, you disable the damage, because imagine one guy comes in here and punches him and he dies. No more quick heals, right? Now, if I just give this a demonstration about how that works, so hopefully this will spawn me up top and it won't try and respawn me. I think it's going to try and respawn me because I have a special little... oh no, okay, we're good. So we exit our ship, we go over here, we walk up to our guy, and he should have a click to heal, right? So we click to heal. That error, don't worry about that. It basically just indicates that I haven't told him, I haven't set the variable name of the entity. So it doesn't know where to try and call that sound file from and to who. But that's only if you want sound files. It doesn't really matter too much. I'll go on to that shortly though. So now, you know, if I took a frag grenade over here, I'm bleeding, I just limp over to this guy, I get a quick heal. Easy peasy. Now, sound files, this is a little bit of a pain, but it's not too bad. So if I just put display capture over, so in order to get to your armor-free mission folder, you go to Documents, Profiles, the profile that you're using at the time, Missions, and then you've got your list of missions here. What I recommend doing is having both an archive folder, or structure it however you want, but basically that just makes it easier to select the scenario in the open category. So for missions that I always recommend that you don't delete your previous missions, because you might need to take content out of that mission and reuse it in an upcoming one. There's so many times where I would have saved myself like 10-20 minutes just by copy and pasting stuff if I had the previous mission available. So I always keep them now in a special archive folder, separate from my upcoming and existing ones. So that's where they're located. So you go to your mission folder. This one is called Demo, I think. Yeah, so Demo. And then you got your mission.sqm. That's the mission file itself. That'll update when you press Control S, and all you need to do is create a new text document. Call it description in lowercase .sqf, and just accept that. So description.sqf, basically any sound files, audio files, video files, it all goes in here. I will just, for ease of use, I will copy and paste the CFG from earlier. Here we go. So these are, a little complicated if you don't know like the basics of coding, but it's so simple if you just like are careful with what you copy and paste. What I usually do is I have in my description.sqf a base description.sqf with a template of the CFG sound. So all I have to do is copy and paste this, and then just change the name, and then change the loudness of the name, and then just do that however many times I want. So, you know, I've got 3 sound files right there. You don't have to space this out, it's just for formatting. I like everything to be tidy. It wouldn't matter if that's like back there though. But just be careful with this because it needs to be spaced exactly. If you have another space there, it doesn't work. You need to make sure that there's like a space in between each of these. So what this does is that when you're in the game, I would execute a within the interaction thing, and this occurs for all of them, right? So it's medic, so it's calling on the item, so you need to define this guy as the medic. It doesn't have to be medic. This could be called like medic 4 too, as long as you update the variable name up here. It doesn't matter. And you know, if you have a lot of speakers around the ship, which you could, you know, quite easily do. This is what I do all the time for like narrative wise and stuff like that as well. It's not specific for this. You could have loudspeakers around the ship, and then regardless of where you are on the ship, when a sound file gets played, you'll hear it through the loudspeakers if you just call them speakers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, for example. So I could have like 4 medics, as long as it says medic 1, medic 2, medic 3, medic 4, it will play from that sound source. So by interacting with this guy, what it'll do, it'll come from this source, right? So you've got say3d hold still. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my description.sqf. Oh, I'm sorry, not an SQF file. It needs to be an ext file, unless I'm fucking crazy right now. Yeah, it needs to be an ext file. So if I just rename that real quick to ext, don't worry about text files. Renaming them the files never makes them unusable. So let me get rid of all this. So again, I'll put templates in this in the description below. Hello, Atom. So respawn on start -1. Basically, it means that it forces the character to spawn on where they are. So sometimes what will happen is if you fuck around with the respawn section here and select the custom position and select the loadout position, what it will do is it will spawn you on a respawn screen, and which you don't really want. So just having the respawn on start and selecting -1 basically forces the player to spawn on the spot that they've been assigned. So they'll always spawn on this spot. Unless they select a respawn position, which I'll go on to later. So, so they'll spawn on that spot. If they die, then they'll be able to select respawn positions, in which case they'll spawn right here, right? But going back to the medic thing, all you have to do is just go into the class. You can leave that as it is. You can put music as well, but I won't cover that right now. We'll just do it one piece by one piece, right? So I'm going to call the class medic. Oh, excuse me, what was it called? Hold still. You can call this whatever. So basically, the variable name, the unit, is called medic. So that's the source where it's going to be playing from. And now you need to define the file itself. So hold still is what we're going to define it as. So it's class hold still. And then I usually just call these the same file for easier. You don't want it to be 100 decibels. That was for the like air raid alarm that I put over earlier. I recommend starting at maybe 10 and then working your way down or up as needed. So what that's done is that has, make sure you save these by the way, Control S. So you've got your description ext, that's saved now. So when you open that back up, that should be as it is. So you've defined the sound file, right, as hold still, but now you need to add in the actual the sound itself. So what I usually do is I just create a sounds file, sounds folder, subfolder within the mission file, and then you can it basically it doesn't have to be called sounds. You know, it just defines where it's being pathed from. So you could have sounds, cinematics, intro. You could structure it like that. Personally, I don't use more than like 10 sounds per mission, so having it formatted like that isn't very helpful to me. But you know, you can sort it out however you want. But a sounds folder and then just dumping all your sounds in there is fine. Just make sure you update where the sound is being sourced from, because if you've put the holdstill.ogg file in a different folder than the sounds, you know, it's not going to play. So what you can do is you can source your sound from wherever. It doesn't really matter. Obviously, we're using the oh, there goes my music again. Yes, I'm still watching. So yeah, you know, we're using the hold still line, so we need a sound file that says hold still. I'll see what you can do. Now, personally, a lot of my sound files come from a site called 11 Labs. This is one of the sites that I use to get AI generated voice lines. It's quite good. There's a free trial. There's also a paid version of it. So, you know, you can use the free one up to the point where you need it, and then you can maybe get the subscription. So I use this quite a lot, but you know, you can also go on to the sound resource site. Oops, sound resource. And this, you could extract and pull the files. Hello, Stone. You can extract the files from the specific games. So if I wanted to type in Halo, for example, you know, you've got all these sound files from all these games, so I can just go into like Combat Evolved, for example, find like a Marine voice line or whatever, pull that out, and then, you know, play that in. But I've already got a sound file made up. I'm not gonna go into creating that. I'm sure you can piece it together. You don't need me to show you how to do that. So once you got your sound file, and I'll just play it from an existing mission file. It'll sound something like this.
Hold still and I'll see what I can do.
So basically that's the sound file that you want to have when you interact on the guy. So after he's played the after you've clicked the button, he will now play the voice line, and then he'll call a full ace medical bill and he'll heal you. Yeah. So all you need to do is just get your file and put it into your mission directory. And now make sure that the file is a OGG file. If it's not an OGG file, it's an MP3. You can either do an online conversion. Any of the online conversion sites work, so like MP3 to OGG. All you have to do is that. Use any of these, they all work fine. Or you can use something fancy like Vegas. You know, if you want that extra level of like radio effects and stuff like that, use Audacity. There's lots of various resources out. It depends on what the function of the sound file is. But this one is just a guy talking to us, so it doesn't need to be fancy. So we've defined in the description, hold still. So we've got our sound file. We've set the volume. Now, if we go back into the game, and I select one of my slots, hopefully it won't put me through the ground, because I haven't actually set them up flat.
Hold still and I'll see what I can do.
There we go. So that's a basic for like setting up voice lines. Now, there are other ways to do that. That's just for if you want to interact with someone with a button, basically. You can also use trigger-based systems. I use these a absolute load in my missions. Now, let's say I want to, as soon as someone exits the barracks, I want it to play a voice line, right? Like a PA system. I select the activation as any player. I make sure that so within the condition block of a trigger, this is where you define where a lot of things, but primarily for the purpose of using sound, you want to define whether it plays locally for that individual when they enter the trigger, or for everyone on the server at the time. So what I usually do if I want a sound to play for everyone, regardless of where they are, as soon as they enter that trigger, I just use a very easy little script, which, just bear with me a second, I'll find it. So it's player in area this trigger. So what this does is this defines the trigger as the entity in which the player needs to enter, and then it will only play for that player. So any player enters trigger, it will only play for that player. On activation, now this is where you will define what you want to happen within the trigger. This can get super complicated, but for the purposes of just the sound file, easiest way to do it is to have play sound, and then what you're doing is you're defining it by the class name. So whatever's in this quotation box needs to be that, and then you always close off the line with a semicolon. So now, if I exit the barracks again, as soon as I open that door and I step out, what it'll do is it will play that sound file without interacting with that guy. And I'm only using that as a demonstration, but let's pretend it's a PA system, right?
Hold still, and I'll see what I can do.
Easy peasy, right? Now, that's okay, but now, you know, that could be for like a radio comm or something like that. But you can go further, right? You can have a speaker, and you can set these up all over the ship, whatever you want. I'll just put it like right outside, and it can get a little tricky because you have to like play around with the volume of it. But you got your speakers up there. Let's name them speakers in the variable name. And now all I'm going to do is in the trigger. I'm going to leave that as it is because again I want the PA to play for everyone who exits the barracks at the same time. Instead of saying play sound, I'm going to do speakers, say 3D. So this defines the speakers, the variable name of those speakers, and it basically says to say that sound within a 3D environment. So I exit, and it's going to play from that speakers. So instead of it being a wherever I'm at, I hear it very clearly in my ears. It will play from this sound source. So I exit, and if I'm over here, I'll hear it in my right earbuds because it's on the right side of me. If I'm looking this direction, I'll hear it from the left side. So you may need to play around with the decibels. So you can change this from 0 to 100, or you can go into like Vegas or Audacity and like increase it that way as well. Sometimes it's best to just kind of like play around for a bit. Sound can be a little awkward depending on what you're doing, but you know, it's just trial and error, basically.
Hold still, and I'll see what I can do.
So you saw I exited the back, I turned my character, and it came from these speakers right here. So, easy peasy, right? Now, triggers are great. They work in a lot of different ways. So, what I can do, if I wanted, as soon as this guy's set out, I wanted there to be a 30-second delay from the point of exiting that and the trigger and the loudspeaker saying something. What I could do is I could just put a very simple countdown of 30 seconds. So I'll exit the door, I'll enter the trigger, and then 30 seconds after hitting that trigger, the sound file will now play. Same thing with timeout, except with a timeout it means that I need to be within the radius of this trigger for 30 seconds. There are different ways that you can execute this, but it doesn't really matter in the context of this current scenario. So let's see. Other ways you can use the triggers are via radio alpha. Now I would use these when you're going to be playing like a radio effect for the entire platoon, like for exposition or something like that. These also, radio alpha isn't just for sound files. All of these activational triggers, it's not just for sound files. You could use them to execute the simulation of enemies, spawn more enemies, have vehicles get destroyed, deleted, a whole host of things you can use using triggers, but again, specifically for sound. I want this to only trigger when radio alpha is triggered. So what I do usually is I will the thing with these is that anyone can activate them unless you set up restrictions, but I won't go into that right now. So what you do is you press backspace, you go to reply, you go to the radio, and then alpha. So we've alpha. Whenever I click this button, it will then play that sound.
Hold still, and I'll see what I can do.
As you can see. So this is really good for when you want to time specific events that can't be necessarily relied upon with triggers. Like, let's say, for example, that you wanted everyone to gather up in a briefing room down there, and then once the briefing had concluded, shit hits the fan, right? The Covenant invade, and we have to get to the drop pods, and music hits in, and stuff like that. Using a radio alpha, or radio alpha through Juliet trigger, it basically allows you to time that sequence exactly when you need it to do. Just by, you know, a simple scroll wheels option, which is great. You can also do this via SQS things, and then when you're in the Zeus interface, there's an execute screen that you can use to input, and then you can execute SQF files, which has all that information in anyway. But if you don't have too much going on, and you rely upon your guys not to press the radio triggers in opportune timings, it works just fine. Your mileage may vary, obviously. So, yeah. So, let's see. Trying to think what else we could talk about in regards to sound, but I don't think anything else is really relevant. The repeatable thing, this is quite good if you want to have like an area that's blocked off. Like I usually, we spawn here, right? But I don't want people to go over here. So what I'll do is I'll put like an invisible wall, and then I'll have a trigger that basically plays a sound, just as we set up earlier. So it'll be like a very small trigger, like 1 by 1. And then when they try and when they enter the trigger, what it'll do is it'll play a sound. So it tells them that this area is inaccessible. Let me give a demonstration of what else you could use this for, basically. You know, again, it's limited by your own imagination, really. So we got not authorized.
You are not authorized for entry to this area. Access denied.
So that's the sound that would play when the person enters that trigger, using the methods that I just demonstrated. And then it would just tell them that they can't go in there, basically. And the invisible walls are great. Blocking off paths. It's a little... how to say... it's a little janky in the fact that it's basically just a massive wall that when you try and walk up against it, you just can't continue. But, you know, when you combine it with the voice lines, or... people get the idea, basically. Anyway, so let's get rid of this trigger, because we're not using the speaker system right now. Let's go to activation. Let's get our player in area this trigger text. Oops. So again, we want only the people that enter this trigger to hear it. So what we'll do is we go down to the effects and we can select the music. Now, going through all of these, and let me pause my background audio. So going through all of these is very time consuming. I don't even have music enabled. It is very time consuming because you have to like wait for the track to go out. Easiest way to do it is go to Tools, Utilities, Free Ease and Radio, and then you've got all the sounds and all the music files you've got loaded into the server, into your mod pack, and then you can select them.
They're tough, but they ain't invincible.
And you can kind of like skip through them right here. So what I recommend doing is you just kind of find the track that you want using the free the Eden radio system, and then you just search for it within the trigger here, so you don't mess around with it. So that one was called like Reach, Winter Contingency, right? Or something like that. I don't know. It was one of these. So you know, I want that music to play. So when I exit my hangar, my barracks area, and I go into the briefing area, some nice kind of like introduction cinematic music comes on to kind of like set the stage, really, to remind everyone you're in a Halo unit. Music's very important to me as a mission maker, and it should be important to you. Some people play with music off, which is fine, myself included, because trying to record videos and edit around like in-game music is an absolute pain, so I have music off. But for everyone else, to create that nice immersive experience, you can use triggers to set up that. So, you know, you can set delays, you can overlap them. So let's say that as soon as Winter Contingency ended, I wanted another track to come on. What I could do is I could just copy and paste this trigger, and then I'd find out when Winter Contingency ends by using the Winter Contingency. So it would end after 1 minute and 6 seconds. That's 66 seconds. So what I would do is I'd have the first trigger here, and then if I wanted a second song to mix straight into the next one, all I would do is I'd select the next track, whatever I want it to be. So Winter Contingency 1, Winter Contingency 2. And then within the timer, all I would do is select the countdown to 66 seconds. So basically, as soon as this first song ends, because it's the same trigger, like radius, it's going to activate in 66 seconds. So you can have one song transcede into the next song, and it flows very nicely. It doesn't just have to be for music, it can also be for battle ambience. So our server, for example, has like a 1 hour ambient battle ambience track that can be played. So all I do is I just have 3 triggers overlapped one after another, and then after the hour is up, I just have that second track repeat, and then I have that for 3 hours, because our ups don't last more than 3 hours. There's 3 triggers overlapping, so that battle ambience, as soon as it gets hits, will go on for those 3 hours, and it just works. So yeah, so you can also set up dynamic text that comes up on screen. So if I give you an example on our training map, because I'm setting that up here. So if I give you a demonstration of what that could look like, what setting all that could look like, basically, and then I'll go on to everything else. So, oh, you know what? This mission file is old and doesn't have the respawn thing set up. Let me back out and find a... Oh no, this is my Halberd template one. This is not the training server. Ignore me. Training grounds. There we go. So the roll screen is different because this is a different map, a different thing than the Halberd template, but the principle is the same. It's the same layout and stuff. So give you a visual demonstration on what the sound files and the music and stuff looks like all together. So you spawn here, you exit, the music comes on, text comes up on that screen. If you want that text to come up on screen, I'll show you in a second. Across from here, you've got your arsenals. When you ace interact, it shows you the, you know, all the stuff you can select. So you got your weapons, your uniforms, and stuff like that. If I had a boo-boo, I'd just come over here. I'd grab my, I go see Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob.
Hold still, and I'll see what I can do.
There we go. I've been healed. And yeah, so that's just, you know, like the very entrance to a mission, just the staging area. A lot of this can be cross-transferred over to, you know, it doesn't have to be on a ship, it can be on the ground. But let me get that trigger up because I'm running a little short on time right now. Yeah, so within the expression, if you wanted text to come up on the screen, all you just do is have double brackets, the text here, that's how long it wants to, how long it'll take to the text to come up on screen. That's how long it will last for, and that's the fade out duration. And then that basically just calls upon the sitrep thing on the bottom right. These are great when you just want to transfer basic information about like where you're going to be where the spawn location is. So, for example, we're spawning on the UNSC Outer Shadow, so that's the text in there. But you could easily put it to like Camp David or Camp Goliath or something like that, depending on what your needs are. Or to, you know, if we're coming up on an objective or something, you could use that to visually indicate that on there. So yeah, that's respawns and stuff out of the way. If we go back to our demo mission. Right, so HEV bays. We'll go to the briefing actually. Briefing's a little bit tricky to set up, but you know, not many people use it. It's not necessary for the grand scheme of things, but it's nice to have. So I usually use like rugged screens. You can use pretty much anything really, like laptop screens and stuff like that work as well, but these ones work the best in my opinion. So you know, our one is a little different to this, but you could literally just have 3 screens parked up right there. You want to go into Slideshow in the module section. I'll select variable names. You could put them screen 1 through 3, for example. So again, setting up a variable name so the slideshow knows where's to direct it to. So you want to put the objects as those. So screen 1, screen 2, screen 3. The controllers, so like, I don't know, I'll put like a camping table or something here, right? It doesn't really matter, you can decorate this however you want, but like a laptop. So the controllers, basically you're indicating where you want to interact, so laptop 1. And I just call the laptop 1. There we go. So basically the laptop now acts as a controller. It tells us to display whatever images we select on these screens. Now, these are a 1920 by 1080 resolution, so whatever image that you create should be in that resolution to properly line up on that screen. If you don't have any photo editing services, that's absolutely fine. We've got Photopia. That's basically Photoshop for free. So you create a new project, 1920 width by... Oh, well, there's an advanced image right there. So just click on this. This is your template. I usually make the background black, but it doesn't really matter. So, you know, this can be as complicated as or as crazy as you want it to be. Usually what I would do is I would just like draw on the map using markers or whatever, however I want the mission to go, any relevant information that you want. So if I print screen real quick, like say that this is it's going to be our initial like staging area, so I want to tell people like we're going here, right? So this could be our first screen. So you can put text in, or you can do it in the game, however you want. I'm not going to fuck around with fonts or like make it pretty. It's purely for demonstrational purposes. It didn't even change it. Cool. God. Inaccuracy. Obviously bad font, not the greatest of fonts, but maybe like Impact Bold or something like that. You know, we're gonna like land, I don't know, somewhere over here. Oh, make it a bit layer. So we'll come in and then we'll land like right there. That's literally as simple as you can get, right? But you can make this way more pretty with like proper NATO symbology. That's probably about as basic as it gets though. But you know, I'll export this as a JPEG in a 1920 by 1080 resolution again. We need to go to our back to our mission folder. We'll create a subfolder called images, like so, and then all we're going to do is we're just going to grab the projects, put it into the it's there, and we'll call this screen 1, or like, I don't know, however you want to list it. 1 through 10 is absolutely fine, but you can call it like briefing 1 through 10. However you want to name it, it doesn't really matter too much. So we'll go back to our slideshow, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be telling the slideshow what images it needs to select. So this one's really easy. We just put 1.jpg. But then if you wanted multiple images, you just separate it by comma and put 2.jpg, and so forth. What I usually do is I just put like a 1 to tell me which screen is those, but you'll see how this works now if I just excuse me, sorry, I've so it's selecting 1.jpg. Yeah, I've got that 1.jpg. So the image is 1.jpg, and then like 2.jpg or whatever, 3.jpg, however you want to list it out. We've only got one slide, so it's only going to select one slide. Interaction names. So if you want 5 images, right, 1 through 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.jpg, you need to clarify the interaction names. So slide 1 is going to be 1, slide 2, slide 2. But you can call this like interaction name, briefing, landing area. I'll just type it out how I would usually do it. So slide 1, slide 2, briefing 3, I don't know, image 5, and you just comma it like that. So if we had like 2.jpg, 3.jpg, 4.jpg, and now if we go back and if I just like create some random bullshit, let me just close this off, put like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or something. Two, 32, sure. It doesn't matter what goes in here. It's just a visual distinction of how the slideshow like functions. 5, as long as they're named correctly in the named correctly in here, it doesn't matter. So 2.jpg, 3.jpg, 4.jpg. Let me go back to our thing. Let me just clarify that that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So we got 1.jpg, that's slide 1, 2.jpg, that's slide 2, 3.jpg, that's briefing 3, 4.jpg, that's image 5. Again, these don't matter at all. It's just what's going to come up to kind of prompt you about what it is. So if I just spawn in random Bozo McBozo here. There we go. Oh, it's taking a second. So when I interact on the hang on. If I've forgotten to do. I've forgotten to sync the slideshow module with the objects. So apologies. So you also need to connect these. So sync to laptop, sync to like screen 1, 2, 3. There we go. So that should work now. If not, it'll be some other reason. I probably have to restart the mission file for it to work. Or something stupid like that. Yeah, okay. Hang on. It might just be this laptop. Usually this works fine. Let me just verify. So we got screen 2, screen 3, screen 1, screen 2, screen 3, controllers, laptop 1. I did call that laptop 1, yeah. Images 1, 2, 3, 4. Probably don't need that comma there. Just choose that 1, 2, 3, 4. Interaction is separate commas and order of images. Yeah, that's fine. Wait a second. I think I may have just been on boo-boo. Let me just contrast with my level 1. I set this up a long time ago, so that's my excuse. Slideshow. No, it is. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Logo, so it would be interaction names. Set name. Oh, you know what? I'm a silly boy. Very silly. So you need to clarify within the slideshow about where the images come from. At the moment, 1.jpg, 2.jpg, 3.jpg. It doesn't know where that is. So you need to basically clarify it's in your images folder. So if you go to your directory and you just do a backslash, basically like this, backslash images, backslash 1.jpg, excuse me, images backslash jpeg, so like that. So now we got it like so. So it just I basically told it was trying to call upon one.jpg, but the file didn't know where one.jpg is. That would usually work if all these files were just in the main directory of the mission file, because I specified it was in an images subfolder. That's why it wasn't turning up, so a little mistake on my part. So now when we go back into the game, when we try and interact on the slideshow, it's definitely going to work and not show me up. Yeah, here we go. So the first slide will always display. So I usually put this as like a blank slide, so like a completely black screen, or you could use your unit's icon. So ours would use like the Havok logo or something. And then what you do is you just, it's still bugger enough. Oh, there we go. So slides 1, 2, slide 3, 32, and slide 4. So that's a very simple way you can do your briefings. You know, obviously you can get your chairs all lined up nicely. If I go over back to our training server or training mission, or actually I might even have an actual mission that we could. Oh, it'd be in my archive file. I'm trying to think which one would have it. Phobos, no. Moonraker, that one definitely has one. So this is a mission, an EVA mission that we played like 2 months ago. If I just show you like what basically your briefing area could look like. It's going to make me scroll all the way up, isn't it? There we go. Wait, we're on one of your playable slots. Oh, here we go. So, yeah, let me come on over here. Put my blue 4 guy down, and then I'll just demonstrate what the slideshow can look like if you've got it all set up nice and pretty like. Because that was a very, very rough like images and briefing area. Doesn't look all that great. Here we go. So again, what I usually do is I just have the base #1 image as our unit logo, and then you know I've got 1 through 3, 1 down to 10, and I've also listed a couple of them, but you know, you can slide through the map, and then you can have like all sorts of different information here, and it conveys the mission information basically. This one was basically when I'm trying to tell people where they need to go and where areas of the ship they need to clear. And then you've got your seating arrangements here. I've got personally 2 arsenals on either side, and then just some light decoration in the form of like some military things, so it tidies up those screens a little bit better. And of course you got your UI box, because what briefing room would be complete without it. And yeah, you can kind of like pretty this up however you want. I'm not going to individually place those assets because that's a complete waste of time. And obviously we've all got our own interpretation of setting up briefing areas. So, but if we go back to our test mission, so MP missions, no, normal missions. Ooh. So let me select it. There we go. Demo. Right, so that's your briefing area all set up nicely. Now, different units use different things. Our unit has 3 methods of insertion. We've got a HEV drop, and then we've also got Falcon inserts as well as Pelican inserts. Now, aircraft are something I'll cover in like 10 minutes or so. There's 2 ways you can do that. You can either do a very simple teleport, or you can have like a nice pre-scripted flight introduction. It depends on your comfortability, and it also depends on, you know, how much time you've got. I would recommend that whenever you do mission making, you do this like 6 months in advance. Like you start the projects, if you can, reasonably like a few months before the mission is starting. This allows you to fully dedicate the time and put in and kind of like space that over. Because making missions on a week-to-week basis can be done, but it's a huge, significant portion to why so many mission makers burn out. don't recommend it at all. So the way that our structure works out, if I show you our unit, we have a schedule. So different mission makers make different missions at different points. So you can structure it however you want, but our one, very simple. It dates it off, it shows the status, it shows the mission makers, and it shows what type of mission it's going to be. So a very easy, interesting way of visualizing that information, so we can communicate who's making missions at what point and what stage of the mission it's going to be making. Ideally, your unit will have like 3 or 4 different mission makers. That way, you've always got people developing missions at all point. It doesn't just rely on one person. Other units can't, you know, it's not going to be for every unit. Some units are just going to have that one mission maker, in which case, you know, that sucks. I hope you're able to upkeep it. I certainly couldn't. But, you know, if you've got a few people working on projects around the clock, around the year, then it just helps keep that level of burden off that one individual. So my missions are all done for this quarter, so now it's up to King and Louis, and then Halsey's doing a big bunch over here. But then I'm back on, so this won't be a mission that I'm going to be building for September. This is a demo mission, but this would be the kind of process I'd use. So yeah, and then you could just do like routine check-ins with people just to make sure that the mission status is going on, see if they need any help and stuff like that. What I do in the Discord is we have a mission making channel, and then we have a big resource for like our mission making guide, as well as a scripts thread, and then we just actively talk amongst ourselves. But back to this. So HEVs, there's different types of ships, different types of HEVs. If you're using the demonic, the UNSC Foundries HEVs, you need to make sure that you're using the HEV pod that's corresponding to that, so not the Optray one, because the functionality of the HEV pods is that there's like 20 pods or however many on one side, on either side, and then you let me just spawn it in, it would make way more sense. So we got the human entry vehicle. This is the Optray one with the glass. But then you've also got the DMNS one, which is this one. Now, depending on what pod you use, depends on what pod you're spawning. So our unit, we use the left ones. Some other units might prefer the ones on the right because it doesn't have a reliance on the screens. You can kind of see clearly with the glass, but use whatever you want, it doesn't matter. Just line up your pods, whatever you're using, inside the pod bays, best you can. It'll be trial and error. You will have to go like into the game to make sure these aren't like, you know, if they're in the ground, they're just gonna like spaz out and like jump around and stuff. What I would usually do is any sort of vehicle, if you don't want it being destroyed or like that sort of stuff, just disable the damage. You can always enable it later if need be. The pods are generally only for the level of insert, so it doesn't matter if they get it doesn't matter if they're invincible or not, because ideally they'll be dropping and they'll be getting out. So you'll line these up throughout the ship. You'll need to list them as a variable name, so pod 1, pod 2, all the way throughout. It's pretty time consuming, which is again the benefit to using the composition, right? So pod 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then you've got, you know, pod on the other side of the opposing side, you've got like 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, you know. Then you need a console to activate it on. So I use the console login screen. These are pretty good for when you just want like some generic like interaction to happen. We'll go over to the HEV under the F5 module section. And you're looking for the HEV module. Now, depending on what HEV module you use, whether it's the DMNS one or the Optray one, regardless of what pod you've got spawned in, what it will do is it will teleport you to a duplicate pair over the drop point, and depending on whether you've got the Optray one or the DMS, that's the pod that it will spawn in, because the DMNS one is this one, whereas the Optray one is the Optray one with the clear glass. So it doesn't matter if you spawned in these pods. If you selected the HEV pod from the Optray one, you'll spawn in Optray pods. So that's an interesting anecdote to be aware of. So spawn the HEV module. Huge bunch of options here. I would just leave this default, to be honest. there's no reason you'd really want to touch this, but you can if you want very specific settings. You can kind of peruse through the various like sections, so you can select a randomized velocity, 0 if you just want the drop pods to drop exactly where they're going to drop. Usually having one, a little bit of a randomized vectory is kind of nice. I wouldn't put it any more than 2 because they can go like absolutely crazy. Countdown timer, if you want pods to have like a 1 minute delay from activating, or a 30-second or a 1 second. If you want to hit that console and they immediately drop, that's absolutely fine. You just select 1 second in there. But 20 is a good point. It allows you to kind of like activate it, get in a pod yourself, and then it also gives people like a last few seconds to kind of like run over and get in a pod if they're running late or something like that. So allows people to get into the mentality as well. Start height, atmospheric entry height, all that stuff, that's default. Don't really need to worry about that. I'd also delete the ships, delete the chutes. I'd also select the HEVs can be deleted after, however you want it. For performance reasons, what I usually do is I just put this to 1. So basically what that means is that as soon as someone exits a pod, it deletes, or usually after like 60 seconds or something, because you've got like fucking 24 pods in the ship, and then you've got 24 pods on the ground, and then you've got all these other AI and units and vehicles and stuff spawned in, and it's just a huge tax on performance. So whilst it's a bit of a visual jar, having the pods despawn sooner rather than later is really good, because it increases that performance on that drop zone. Additionally, it allows the second wave to come down. I'm not worried about like hitting other pods on the ground, because the HEV pods are a bit finicky. I even though we're an ODST unit, a drop shock unit, we don't actually use pods because there's a lot of issues with them that make for a very inconsistent drop. They can land on their sides, they can hit each other, they can get flung out of space. Not the greatest way of inserting, if I'm truth to be honest, but they are very cool, and it's armor, so armor's jank. It is what it is. So now that you've done that, what you have to do is you have to connect the HEV pod, HEV module to the console, and then the individual pods. So let me just make sure oh yeah. So second one that you need is the HEV squad console launch setup. And what you do is you would name the HEVs, so pod 1, pod 2, pod 3. So in the variable name, pod 1, pod 2, and then it seems like it's already set up for you, so you may not even need to spawn these in, but I've always done it this way anyway. No, unfortunately we're an English-speaking unit, so you do need to have a pretty good grasp on the English language. If that's an issue, we're probably not the right unit for you. But if you do have a good grasp on English, you're more than welcome to join the Discord, read over the information packet that's there. And then we have 27 people on the waitlist right now, but it's not by join date, so if a slot opens up tonight, it won't, but if it did, whoever responds first to that basically gets in, as long as they can meet the recruitment requirements. So if I just run over to the HEV drop bay real quick, confirm I've done that right. So you can see the doorway kind of like disappearing, the LEDs that I mentioned. Yeah, sweet. So, okay. It's been a long time since I set this up. Let me refer to my template. And see how I actually did that, and then I'll give a better explanation. So, with this live stream, it's going to be very hit and miss with the information I give you. Some of it's going to be like completely accurate, and some of it is going to take me a minute to remember how exactly I did it. Because usually what I do is I just set this stuff up, set a composition, and then just like leave it as it is, because it's a pain to always set up. So, oh, don't tell me it's oh, okay, it's because I've locked the folder, I think. Drop pods. Oh, maybe I didn't use the module in the end. Did I not? I guess I didn't. That's always the way that I remembered of doing it, but I guess I did it a completely different way this time. Okay. Well, that's inconvenient, but okay. So this basically uses the same add action as the medic over in the corner right there. So with the it basically opens the control menu. That's the text that comes up. It opens up the function menu for the HEVs. And then it selects the various drop pods. So drop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't know why I've got this in. I'm sure it's for a very good reason. What I'll do is I'll just copy and paste all this into the description, and then you can copy and paste it into yourself. As long as you've got the console set down, this is in the initialization screen, and then you've got the drop pods, which each individually have this in the initialization, the init subbox, and each pod is individually named drop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way through 1 to 18. It'll work the same way. I'll give a demonstration of how this works real quick, just to visualize it, but I apologize that that's not more in depth. The modules do work, however, because I haven't used it in this, it's probably I did it for a very good reason. Maybe it's because I ran into the exact same issues I'm running into now, where it took like a little bit of funkiness to fix out. There is already an Optrade drop pod tutorial that the developers have made, so what I do recommend is just checking that out, honestly. I'll also link that in the description after the stream is over, so you can refer back to that. Yeah, so different voice lines and stuff.
Let's just wait. Command will tell us if they want it checked out.
So you got the music in the background, the PA system that came on, the various voice lines, the phone ringing. That's all using the play sound and play and save for EV stuff that we talked about earlier. So the pods and stuff. This is what the stream would look like if you've imported all those settings correctly. So all you do is you just select the drop pod, and then you drop on it. You can also configure all these buttons over here on the left hand side, deploy whether it's a frigate or not, delete the chutes, all those options. I generally just leave it as is, it's standard. It works fine. When a person is crewed inside these HEV pods, it'll be blue, so that's where you can tell like whether everyone's loaded up. Click launch now. After 20 seconds, all the pods that are mounted, they will load and they will fire off. So if I give a quick demonstration of, oh, it's after 30 seconds. So after a quick demonstration, I'll just get back to the other one, but at least you can see how the drop pods work, right? So take this opportunity to have a little drink. I can't believe I've been talking, rambling more like for like 2 hours now, so. So if your screen appears dark in the pods, it's because you got PIP enabled and disabled. It's very performance intensive, which is why I have it off, even with a B7 computer that I've got. Just doesn't really add anything to the gameplay, for me personally. I usually use third person. So you can see it'll spawn a ship above, then all the pods in line will kind of like drop down. So I'm the first pod, so I'll be the first person dropping down, but you would see if you were like with a crew of like 18, there'd be like 18 different people. Cinematic boards and stuff like this with the two letterbox things. That's only because my view distance is like ridiculously high, but that would be kind of like the area that you put the ship away off in the distance. Like if the map was 20 by 20k, I'd put that in the very far corner to where we're going to be playing from. This is just our training area at the moment, which is why it looks a little jank, but once you're in the ground again, what I mentioned about the infantry perspective, they're not actually going to see any of this, so it doesn't really matter as long as they can see it fine from, you know, on the ground, and you can't see any jank from the ground. The cityscape it looks fine from their perspective, but as you're dropping in and stuff, if you move around like with the Zeus, it looks a little bit weird. But it's the same way they developed like the original Halo games. So if you like look in Halo 2 Anniversary and see the city of Mombasa as you fight through the streets, there's a lot of like these fucking floating buildings and stuff. It's just part of game design. If you're making like custom compositions and stuff like that. But that's basically how the pod would drop down. Yeah, I apologize for the module thing, but it is what it is. So that's one method of insertion. Second method of insertion is, presuming you're on the same level, maybe you'll just want to spawn in the hangar deck or something. These elevators, just as a quick tip, when the pad comes down, when you get on it, you'll have a tendency to kind of like fall through it. So what you'll want to do is go into a static animation pose, and that'll basically lock you to the ground floor of the elevator and prevent that. So you'll go up through the hangar deck, get into the aircraft. So if I've got 2 aircraft spawned down here, what I'll do is if I'm only using Pelicans, I'll only spawn the Pelicans in. If I'm only using the Falcons, I'll only use the Falcons. And again, if you've set up your folder section correctly, all it takes is just deleting that, and then everything related to those Falcons disappears. So the way that I've got my mission set, my missions, the composition set up is that we'll occasionally use Falcons, we'll occasionally use Pelicans. Occasionally I won't have time to set up like a cool cinematic flight sequence, or our mission makers might not be up to it. They're not too difficult to set up, cinematic flight sequences, but they are a little time consuming. They are a bit overwhelming to like figure out. So a simple solution around that is just to use a teleport. Obviously, if you've got a human crew, a person that actually flies, this isn't relevant for you. But again, we're an infantry-focused unit, so we don't actually have any pilots. We don't plan to have any pilots for the reasons I mentioned before. But all this does is basically, we've got our Pelican here. We'll walk up the ramp at the ramp. I've used a marker here, but it's actually an invisible wall basically, because the marker isn't an interactable object, so I put an invisible wall behind it. And basically what this does is it attaches you to an object, and then it detaches you, it teleports you, and then it basically, you go up to it, you interact on it, and then it teleports you to another Pelican away on the map. So if I spawn in grasslands real quick and put the composition down, I'll just give a quick demonstration about how the vehicle teleportation works, and then I'll go into detail on how to reproduce that, because I've been leaving the demonstration to the end, which I suppose is not the best way of doing this, but again, my rambling series. So let's see, let me spawn my guy. So this is how it works basically. You've got your Pelican, you'd walk up the back of it, you've got your board button, and then I think the boats have just exploded on the other pair, so don't worry about that, but here we go. Yeah, it's just because the boats are in the ground. So it teleports you basically to an adjacent pair away on the other side of the map. So that's where we would spawn up on the ships, right? And then these Pelicans basically are our deployment points. This is when I'm being lazy, when I can't be able to set up a flight sequence, but usually we'll fly in. Other occasions where you might want to use the teleport function is when you want to go through like a building or something, or it can be used for any multiple of reasons, like 100 different reasons, but specifically with regards to aircraft, we'll always use these when we're deploying bigger boats. So the Pelican will be floating on water. The simulation will be off basically, but it's acting like it's floating on the water. So if I switch to one of the ones that has that, which one? Bagshot was it? Was it Contra? I think it's Contra. Point of view can be identified when they drop. Yeah, you can. That's actually part of the mission file itself. I'll go back onto that in just a second. Once I've gone through the teleport thing. So where did I put the pelicans? Oh yeah, so in the same way you teleport within the mission environment, the Halberd template is over here on the bottom left, but our playable area is over here. So all the performance is basically tucked away over there. It doesn't interfere with the mission environment. No one can see the template at all. We get into our pelican, and then we teleport over here, and we would spawn basically on this spray can, which is an invisible object, and then we'll exit, and then we'll get in our boats, and then we'll float away. It's a cool method of insertion. So that's one of the primary reasons why we use the teleport in that type of context. But it can be used for a variety of things, like later in the mission, we need to proceed over here, and this dam over here is not an interiorized object. So in order to get people from A to B, I've got a doorway here. So basically, I've got a script here that basically just, when you interact with the door, it will then teleport you from that side of the dam over to this side of the dam. So whilst there isn't this... where's the doorway? So it'll teleport you to right here. So whilst you can't actually go through the dam because there is no interior, it's just a workaround. Obviously, you could create an interior, but it would just mean like 4 teleport things, and then you don't obviously have to like create an interior for that, right? But yeah, let me go on to your question real quick. So if we go back to the training grounds, this is our unit BCT map basically. So instead of it being the Altus airfield for the 100th time, it's a little bit more of an engaging visual experience. So initially the map is like clear, it's a little bit foggy, but I want it to be that when the BCT map, when we do the drop pod sequence, because it's our BCT is structured so we go from A to B to B to C to D, all those topics in a row, right? So we end up on the drop pod sequence. When it teleports us over the drop pod area, I've got a trigger here, which, let's see. Let me see if I can find out which one it is. I didn't even label it properly. Look at me breaking my own rules. Yeah, so this trigger right here, I've got the radius set to the drop point, and I've got the altitude set to -1, so that basically covers from ground level all the way up to the fucking like top of the map, right? So it doesn't matter as long as someone's within the 250 by 250 radius. When they get over the drop scene, the weather will change from what it is currently, so sunny with overcast with no fog, rain off. It will change the weather to whatever I want it to be. So for this, I want it to get into like this nice nasty kind of like late afternoon, dark skies, overcast, rain, and then it just basically says force weather change. So if you wanted to have you basically just skip time, put it to whatever you want. So it's a 24-hour clock, so you can skip time by 12 hours or 10 hours or something like that. So select it whatever you want. Overcast, if you want that on or off. There's a lot of configures. All you have to go is go onto the forums, the Bohemia forums, and look at the force weather change module. I think the forums are down right now, but we can try. I hope they're up because it's been down for a very long time. Okay, it's cool. So these are the options basically. You've got set overcast, set rain, set fog, set humidity, and basically this is a one-to-one replication of this. It's just in text form. So instead of it being a slider, it's like, for example, set rain. If you wanted rain to be on, you know, putting that to 1, that would put the rain to 1, right? So that it'd now be raining. So you can play around with those settings on the inner activation section of it, and that will just change the environment to whatever you want it. Alternatively, you can do it on the fly in Zeus, but the changes can take a while to take effect, and it also can be a little janky. So what I've got is when they are in the drop pod stage, it goes to a black screen anyway. So when they fade in transition from the getting into the drop pods over here and teleporting over here over the drop point, it changes the weather. So unfortunately for those that are existing in the ship, the second wave that might want to drop down, they have a little bit of a janky experience. But for those in the pod, it's flawless. And of course, you can always add as many pods as you need to. You know, if you've got 40 people that you want to drop 40 pods at once, you can add more pods. But the Halberd itself only has space for like I think 22, so we've only got 22 pods. So I don't add extra pods because it's not realistic. But I hope that kind of answers your question. Back to the demo. So that's teleporting. If I just bring up the teleport screen real quick. Let me have a quick drink again. Oh, I was in the wrong one. Halberd template. Here we go. Yeah, there's a lot of a lot can be learned through the forum by just browsing the various commands. So the wiki is an excellent resource. You just kind of have to do a bit of digging. Usually there's people that have already gone through this process, so you're not alone. There's usually like threads and stuff like that available, where people will direct you to the usual one. Unfortunately, I think the Bohemia Interactive Forum has been getting DDoSed, or it's run out of server resources or something recently, so it's not been great. But for the teleport function, I will provide this as a resource as well in the description, because trying to explain how all this works is, basically it attaches you to exit. Exit is a spray paint can, which is over here in the Pelican. So it attaches when you go through that sequence of holding down the button for X amount of seconds, it'll spawn you on this exit. It can be anything. It can be teleport 1, teleport 2, teleport 3. It's the variable name of the item, so it doesn't really matter what that is as long as it's not a duplicate of an existing variable, and that it's not also it matches basically. So we've got 2 pelicans, so there's 2 teleport points, one to the left, one to the right. So again, quick and easy way to insert yourself into the actual LZ about how doing this flight sequence. So board the Pelican, that's the icon that comes up when you're looking at it. This means that you've got to be within 3 meters to see that icon come up. Again, that just attaches you to it. It does a sleep for like 0.2 of a second, so it basically doesn't immediately teleport. It has a little gap so that if someone's there, it doesn't jank out, and then it just detaches you, and all this is just part of the script that detaches you basically. So you don't have to worry about that. So I'll just include that as is, and then if you just copy and paste it, it should be easy enough. I'll also provide this as a composition as well, so you can kind of like just grab the composition and place it down. Again, the Halberd composition is available on the Steam Workshop, so all of this is already it's already like there for you to use. Just go onto the Armor Free Workshop into the Havok Company Halberd template, and then you can use all this. You will need to use, in order to get it, the Operation Trebuchet mod. Excuse me, I'm on the wrong slide. So yeah, so you go to the Armor Free Workshop, search in the search bar, Havok Company Halberd template in the workshop, up here at the top right. It'll be the first one that comes up, hopefully, and then you've got it here. So you just subscribe to that. When you go into the game, in the composition section, under the custom section, it'll be down. You can just search for it because I've got a lot, but it'll be near the top. It will be aircraft carrier, and then best to do this on a VR so you can understand like where the layout is. But I've listed it with comments as well, so that's where you'll drop. That's a respawn for drop pods. That's the Halberd, the ship itself. That's where you teleport if you had the Falcon teleport, and that's where you teleport if you were the Pelican teleport. And this one is just it's a different variation of the drop pod respawn. So instead of respawning at like this already pre-placed drop, you can spawn at like a Pelican crash site, which I use quite frequently. Respawns and stuff using drop pods, I don't even recommend. Just have it for the initial drop, and then have like pre-placed respawn zones that make sense within the context of the mission. Let's see. Where was I? Yeah, so I'll provide all that information, but that's a down and dirty for the teleport thing. Now, recording flight paths, huge thing. But if I just do this from my demo mission real quick. Boop boop. Oh, and I just realised my background music's been off for like half an hour. Let's put that back on. Getting tired of listening to myself talk. I need some stimulation. Yeah, so apologies about the drop pod thing not working. Get rid of that. Let's talk about recording your own flight path. Complicated, but once you understand it, super easy. I don't recommend using the Pelicans, especially not the 19th one. Well, the Foundries one now it's called. For various reasons. First, the simulation of it is kind of janky sometimes. The landing gears don't always go up. There are ways around that, but it's I won't go into it right now. Falcons are great because it just works. Todd Howard, it just works. So to record a flight path, you just need an aircraft and the player to be in the aircraft. This also works for units, any units, like vehicles, tanks, helicopters, planes. UnitCapture is a really cool way to get these like player done pre-scripted sequences of actions. So Zeus AIs are okay, but there's a lot of inconsistency with them, especially with like flying. Sometimes it's just easier to have this pre-scripted flight sequence, and then it's very more consistent. Well, I appreciate you stopping by and asking questions. I hope it was informative. You're welcome to check through the VOD later. It'll have chapters and stuff like that, so it makes it easier to scroll through. And it'll be a bit more engaging next time. This is just like the very first how to set everything up, so it's already taken me like 2.5 hours to get here, so next video, don't even know when that'll be. Hopefully at the end of this week. My work obligations are in the way of attending my own units missions at the moment, but we'll see. So recording flight paths, again, I'll use a, it sounds like the Covenant proc for some reason. That's funny. So I'll use one that I made earlier because it's just easier. So BIS function UnitCapture. This is what you can do. So if any of these that you've seen in the past, you just go onto the Armor-free Bohemia wiki and just read through this information. So for example, if you're not too sure what all these means, like left and right, the unit, so it's the player that the vehicle is in, the duration, so it's 300 seconds, the FPS, which I wouldn't recommend having under 30 FPS. 60 is probably too much, but maybe 45 if you don't want like too much shanky. Firing, I usually put that as true, and then I just tell it within the config side, the SQF side, whether I want it to be active or not. So I always keep that true. But that's basically how it is. And record equals, it basically just tells it to record that. So you'll want to make sure that it's on a radio trigger. So radio alpha works absolutely fine. If you already got radio triggers, maybe put it down all the way down to Juliet so you don't overlap. I'd also recommend labeling this as something. So into the text thing like record flight or something. Simple, easy to remember. So now if we just go to our Falcon, and again this can work for any vehicle, doesn't matter. So when we spawn in the game, we'll be in our Falcon. Perfect. What I want to do is I'll always... It's situational, right? Sometimes I want the Falcons to come in fast, sometimes late. Sometimes I want them to be like low to the ground or, you know, do a certain sequence. So it's entirely situational, but let's say I just want to... I want to have like an aerial assault down here, right? So what I'll do is I'll just go back into the game and I'll move us over in that general direction actually, because I can't be arsed flying like back and forth all this time. Let me move this guy down to the coast and have him like up in the air already. Oh, he's so high up. He wants to go back into orbit. I don't know how that would work considering it's an open canopy. Right. So here's our Falcon. This is what I'd usually do for like creating these intros anyway. I'll have them spawn like off on the coast where I want them. So that's the LZ that we established earlier in the video, right? So now I want to get this flight sequence done. So I'm going to spawn him like floating above, so the engine is already on and waiting. Just makes it easier. You can spawn him on the ground, but then you have to go through the whole like spooling up, engine on stuff. So there we go. So all you do is just like the previous radio triggers with the audio file. This now triggers the record flight. Yeah, so at the top left there you can see it's record flight. What I would recommend doing is, instead of it being stationary, I would get a little bit of speed beforehand. And then once you've got enough speed, you just do reply, radio, and then record flight. And now at this point, you can see at the top right, it's starting the UnitCapture, which includes the weapon fire data. So if you want to do like these really cool like Banshee flyovers, like gunfire going off and stuff like that, or maybe like a dogfight in the air, you can do all that pretty even. And because it's all captured and recorded, it will always happen exactly how you recorded it. So it's really cool. But let's just say I just want like a very simple, flight in. This would be how it gets executed. So it really depends on your piloting skills. I'm not putting too much effort into this, but you can be as cool or as like fancy as you want, right? So let's say I just wanted to like land right here. I'll land, give it like 10-20 seconds for people to dismount. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now I'm going to lift. And because we're still recording, this is all going to happen when people are actually playing and they get out of the aircraft so they can see the aircraft fly away. You might want to increase the time depending on your entry. So if you've got like 4 Falcons in a convoy in flight formation, landing at the same time, you'll probably want to like land and give it like 20 seconds. So by the time the last aircraft is landed, you're already like 5 seconds, 10 seconds into the flight sequence. So you'll just want to like get as far away as you need to. I usually get like 4 kilometers out and then I just fucking nosedive into the ground. Before you do that, you want to press escape. So this is the end of the flight recording, and because I've nosed down, what's going to happen is the aircraft is going to just destroy itself. So it becomes an object as opposed to a vehicle, so it just frees up that resource. But you can also use delete vehicle using a trigger, or you can just go into Zeus and delete them. But this just immediately helps solve that. So once you're on this escape, you can see all the information. So it's captured 3,000 frames, so about 1 minute and 6 seconds. Or actually, I think that might be like, what's 100 seconds? 60. It's like 1 minute and 40 seconds or something like that. So by pressing F1, it copies the unit movement data. That's what we need first. So I'm just going to input this into a blank document. So as you can see, it's ridiculous, right? But this is basically telling the aircraft exactly what to do at exactly the moment. So every 30 frames a second, this is like recording 30 exact movements 30 times every second. So that's why it's so long. And obviously this gets longer the more that you have. So if you have 60 FPS for 3 minutes, this is going to be like 50,000 characters long. In fact, it's already at 400,000 characters almost, and we've just done like a simple insert, right? But it can very easily get ridiculously huge. As long as you just make sure that you've got this copied in a separate document, it just helps out a huge bunch. So I'm just going to go to a previous mission where I've done this, and again I'll provide all this as a resource down below that you can just copy and paste, because it just makes it easier than typing it out. Let's see which one did I use it in? Was it Bagshot? What was the most recent one? I forget. Comstock. Here we go. Flight recorder SQF. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this into my folder. And there's options here. So basically, the movement data, always need that, right? So that's why I do it first. But then you got your firing data. Firing data is if I was shooting and I want that captured at the same time, I'd go back into my screen and then I'd press F2, and you see how the weapon data has also been copied to the clipboard. What I'll do is I'll just make a separate notepad and I'll just copy that. Because nothing's come up, it's just open and closed brackets, but if you shot, it would tell you exactly what weapon it shot, for how long, at what points, and it would sync up exactly right. But since we're not using that, don't worry about it. This will be like this to begin with. All you have to do, it would be called like mdata. So this basically tells you this is the area that you need to import the information to, right? This basically just it prevents it from triggering. So if I wanted fire data, I would just remove that. If I didn't want fire data, I just leave that there. And then make sure that you clarify the vehicle that you're going to be using. So we're using Falcon, so I'll just leave that as Falcon 1. But if you're using like any other aircraft, or you call it, it's just a variable name, just make sure you reference it correctly. So grab the movement data, select all of your movement, and then just Control V, and then make sure it's like that. If you leave an extra space there, it won't work, so make sure you do it exactly as I've just done it. So you copy the M data, and then you input it, so there should be a space there, and there should be a space there, because Armor is ridiculous when it comes to the formatting of code, so it needs to be exact. So that's done, right? What we're going to do now is we're going to save it as an... I usually have a flight record SQF as a template, and then I just save over it, right? So we'll call this falcon1.sqf. And then I'm going to change that to a UL file, so it'll save it as an SQF file as opposed to a TXT file. Right. So now we can go back, we can abort, go back into our Eden thingy. Now, we're going to call this Falcon 1, right? And again, this is if we were going to be using the Halberd template. So I'm just going to delete that and move it back over to our Halberd template. So Falcon 1. Now, I'm not going to do this 4 times, but you can duplicate this as many times as you want, right? So if you wanted a nice formation flight, all you'd have to do is just do that 4 times and then sync it up properly. So you'd have to execute the flight script and then follow the second vehicle in, and then execute the third aircraft, and then follow the first and second aircraft, and basically just keep doing exactly as we've been doing so far, but just make sure it's in sync. So this is Falcon 1, so this is our variable name. So what we're going to do, our flight path has been recorded, so when I don't need it, I just delete the folder, because it's composition, I can spawn it when needed. I'm going to create a trigger. So I usually do radio triggers for this, but you could also, depending on the circumstances, you could also use radius triggers. So if you wanted Banshees to fly over and strafe an enemy at a certain point, you could use a radius trigger. That works fine, but for an insertion, you usually want to use a radio trigger, because it basically gives you full control over when you want to do it. So on activation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do exec VM quotation marks falcon1.sqf, and then I'm just going to close that off. Now, what you want to do as well is if the aircraft itself is where it should be in your hangar deck, the engine is going to be off, so you'll want to clarify Falcon 1 engine on. You can also enable simulation just to be on the safe side. Falcon 1 enable simulation global true. So basically that says that if the Falcon, to save on performance, you might want to have this as the simulation disabled. You'd need to enable it anyway to get in, but you know, let's say that the Banshees wanted to fly over again to conserve that performance. For whatever reason, the simulation of the entity is off. Just make sure that's on. So these are the main things. Falcon engine on, and then SQF. Oh, my apologies. You need to add a true to the end of that, so it's a true or false statement. So engine on, yes, true. Engine off, false. Sweet. So now if I spawn my guy, you'll probably want to put a pilot in there, but turn off his simulation so he doesn't fuck around with controls. Okay, so now what I'll do is when I get into the aircraft, what it's going to do is that when I enable my radio trigger Juliet, it's going to start flying over into the area. Now that's a really fucking janky transition, right? So we can do a better transition by adding in like a fade transition, so it fades to black and then fades in from black. So that allows the rotors to kind of like spool up during the blackout sequence. But you could also have the engine spool on whilst the aircraft is on the deck. You basically just have to time it out a little better, and I'll explain this a little more in depth in a second with regards to the black in and black out and the weighting. But as you can see, the aircraft is following our flight sequence exactly as it was recorded like a few minutes ago. So, you know, it's coming in, it's going to wrap around the tree here, and then it's going to land. So I'll want to double tap V, jump out, and then you'd set your perimeter up however you want. So that's very bog standard, simple scripted flight sequence. I won't watch it fly off because it already demonstrates the point. But fade transition, right? So introduction sequences can be as complicated or as crazy as you want them to be. Usually, what I'll do is I will separate the introduction into its own SQF file, so it just makes the organization a little easier. So what I'll do is I'll create an introduction.sqf file, because making an introduction sequence with like 4 aircraft and fade transition and music and voice lines and stuff, if you put this in one trigger, it's very easy to accidentally maybe delete the trigger or something goes wrong. So it's very easy to just put it into, it's better basically just to put it into an SQF file within the mission folder itself, and then call upon that SQF file. And yeah, so what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to, because we're only using one Falcon, what I'll do is I will just replicate exactly what we've done here. So I'm going to delete the radio trigger for now. So I'm going to put exec VM falcon1.sqf falcon1 engine on true. So that basically executes the script and the engine on just per usual. But we can do a few things here. We can add a delay from the engine on and the execution of it. So what we can do here is do engine on true, and then bugger, I've forgotten it off the top of my head. Wait, sleep UI. So sleep UI 30. So that would basically say engine on true, turns the engine on after 30 seconds. The engine, the SQF file to like get the scripted flight sequence is now going to trigger. So if I just go back to a mission that I've made, oh, I was just on that mission. So if I go back to the Comstock mission, for example, and check out one that I made earlier, this is what it could sound like. So this is what it could look like. So, oh, did I put the wrong? No, I did. I did right. So, yeah, that's why it didn't work for me last time. So I forgot to put the space bar. So it's again making sure things are spaced out fine. So because I've got 4 Falcons here, 4 scripts. This is the fade transition between the black in, black out, and then I've got my various sounds. So introduction sound plays, So this is like Dark Star flight, spooling up, leaving time now. 15 seconds later, after the engine's spooled up, the flight sequence happens. It goes from black, fade out to black, and then fades in to black. And then I've got the aircraft already flying in motion. And then a second sound file plays. But you don't need the sound files, you don't need these, as long as you've got the amount of aircraft that you're using with the variable names and the exec VM. But this is kind of like, instead of putting this in a trigger, I would just put it in an introduction thing, and then in the same way that I called upon it using a radio trigger earlier, I would just exec VM introduction .sqf. So instead of having all this information within a trigger down here, you can put it within its own file, basically. So however you want to format it, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just my method of doing some things. Sometimes I'll do it using a radio trigger, sometimes I'll do it using an SQF. Depends on it depends entirely on my mood, basically, but you can figure out the best way that works for you. So so let's say that I had the fade transition. So let me go back to the introduction real quick. So all I'm going to do is, again, I'll provide this as a copy and paste thing later. So I don't want that to be UI sleep. There we go. So Falcon engine turns on, sleeps, black in, black out. Yeah, sweet. So just so I need the engine to come on first. And it sleeps, then the XQS files happens, immediately cuts to black. After 15 seconds, the black will come in, and then that should work absolutely fine. So that's my introduction to SQF file. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to call upon that using the same method. So activation, radio alpha, I'll call it intro. Exec VM introduction. Exec VM introduction to SQF. What have I done wrong? Exec VM introduction to SQF. Have I put something somewhere it shouldn't be? Hang on. Oh, it was in the condition block. It needs to be in the activation. Silly me. I'm losing it right now. There we go. So now if I replicate that process, you'll see I have a little bit of a nicer transition, so it won't be as janky. So, as the Zeus, whenever everyone was loaded up in like 4 Falcons or whatever, engines are spooling up. So, as opposed to the engines spooling up whilst it's already teleported in flight, it'll spool up first. After 15 seconds, it should teleport us with a blackout. So now we've teleported from the ship where we were over to the island, and the formation is already away. So after another 15 seconds or something like that, it's going to fade back in. You can set the delay to however you want. I just put it for this length so that it allows me to get the initial like janky flight recording sequence out of the way, so that I'm already on a straight and narrow course. So as you can see, that's a bit of a nice transition. You don't have to do that, but it's definitely worth going, especially if you're after those cinematic missions. Additionally, you know, you can add the play sound to add in the like AI voiceover or whatever. You can in the trigger you can add in like the music down here, so when you activate the trigger you know, you play the sound. Alternatively, you can do play music, and then you can just define the music track. So again, going back into utilities and Eden, another way to do it would be just to define it as like, I don't know, whatever the song name is basically. So Halo War, Spirit of Fire. You'd have to find out what the track name is, but it shouldn't be too difficult. Let's see. It says down there at the bottom. So optre_music of city. You'd basically just put play music and then copy and paste that into play music under the quotation swing. Good way to overlap music as well as sound files and stuff. Personally, for my introduction sequence, I usually just have like an introduction music thing, and then I have the aircraft so far out, so by the time the first introduction music goes, they've entered this second trigger radius, and then the second music will then play on basically like that. So I don't know. Your method may vary depending on how you want to execute it. So that's basically the scripted flight sequences. You've got several methods of insertion there, and that would be generally how you want the ship to go. Obviously, if you're using pilots, none of that is relevant to you at all. But you know, for smaller units that want that type of like cinematic, consistent flight in and out, well worth setting up. And then just for those that were when I got sidetracked with this like 40-minute spiel, just make sure that you set the game type to whatever the game type is going to be. So I usually put cooperative mission. You disable the AI because you don't want AI taking up your slots. And then under the respawn position, you've got custom position. Select the respawn position, counter, make sure that those two are checked. You can enable spectator if you want, basically, if you can have like a limited number of lives or something like that. Those are good stuff. Like if all your respawn points are deleted, it allows people to still spectate. So if you're going to do like a defensive phase where you're all going to be like fighting to the death, it's nice to kind of like have people be able to spectate each other. So you want to either spectate in Ace or spectate in vanilla arm thing. Ace spectator is way better, so I'd click on that. But make sure you set the delay to whatever is reasonable. So if you want people to have like a longer delay, you can set like a minute. Our unit is quite relaxed in terms of respawning and stuff like that, so we have a very low respawn timer. Everything else, you know, you can go through in your own time, but those are the basics of respawning. So if I wanted there to be 2 respawns, so I'd have one down there where I spawned. I could also have one up here in the hangars. You can either have a platform, like I did down there, because there was limited room, but another cool one that you can use is the medical, what's it called? You can spawn in vehicles and stuff like that, but what I'm trying to find is a specific prop. It might be a vehicle. Is it called Huron? I don't think it is. No. Let me just go up my my old mission real quick. Just find out instead of me like spending like half an hour trying to find the bloody prop name. Oh, it's not even the right one. One sec, let me just spawn the Havok template in. It's bugged out. There we go. So it is. Oh god, sometimes I hate this shit. Yeah, so you can also spawn people inside the. There he is, Taru medical pod. So this is I think it's a vehicle. Oh no, it's an object. So you can basically, as opposed to the platform method, you can also have people spawn in like one of these medical containers. So there's 4 seats. If 4 people die, more than 4 people die at once and are in the respawn section, then yikes. So maybe you can have like a couple of these or something. But basically, it allows people to select their position in the ship. So if everyone was already done with the briefing and they were up here, and we had like a last minute joiner, we just have them respawn. Spawn in one of these, grab their gear from these arsenals, and that way they don't have to go through the whole like getting up the elevator and all that. They just spawn at the nearest point, and then there's various respawn points set up across the map. So in this mission, for example, we spawned in a hangar, so there's a respawn position here, and then there's respawn positions set up throughout the map with trigger radiuses. So we'll land when we enter the trigger radius. when we capture the area, the trigger will come on. So if you want the respawns to always be available on the map to be selected, you don't have to sync them up with the trigger. But if you don't want them to be, if you want them to be hidden until somebody, think of them as like a checkpoint system, right? Which is good for an infantry with no reinforcement and stuff like that. What you can do is just right-click, connect to, and then have them sync to like a trigger around the area. Make sure the activation is set to any player. So you connect that to the respawn position by syncing it. And then basically as you go through the mission, so we spawned over there. If I respawned, that would be the only place. We fly in from this direction. As soon as we land, we get up to this point. This checkpoint activates, and now I've also got arsenal boxes at the crash site set down, so that people that will respawn, they don't have to ask me for a TP. They'll just spawn here and they'll go and rejoin their group. So 1-1 will be maybe like over here, 1-2 will be over here. So good for them if they spawn in 1-2's position, because that means they don't have to run too far. But you know, this would progress throughout the mission. So you know, if they're over here still fighting, they died, they'd spawn back there still. They have to run a bit further. But then I have several checkpoint systems set up around the map, and then I usually put arsenals around the area as well as like a resupply area. But for an example on how effective the insertion can be, I'll just give a demonstration about how you can encompass all of what I've talked about today into a mission using the play sound, the executive exec VM to call upon an SQF file, the flight sequence, and how all of that would go. So this is a mission that we played last week. It took me not too long to set up, honestly. I made it as a last minute thing because all my mission files are like for later points in time. So I made this one in like 4 days. But you know, you got your briefing area here, whatever, it doesn't matter, it's just the staging area, but I like to make things a little pretty. You've got our respawn point over there. So we have our briefing. What I've done is in Vegas, there's a sound file that will play. There's dead air, basically 10 seconds of dead air, then the voice line will come on, so I don't have to fuck around with timings.
Anyone seen Gunnery Sergeant Skinnerd? No? I guess he's taking a shit. Oh well, let's proceed. Alright everyone, gather round. I won't take up too much of your valuable time. I know these after-action reports are boring, but it's got to be done. So, with me here's Captain Martins of the Pegasus Air Wing. He's going to be the liaison for conducting the joint training exercises going forward after the unfortunate accident with Captain Sobel.
Evening, troopers. Hope you're settling in well enough. I know these quarters aren't great, but we'll be rotating out in a few days to Madrigal. We'll be heading over to the National Center for Urban Operations to conduct some close-quarters combat training in preparation for Operation Sand Dune, which is taking place later next month.
That's right, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. We still need to get this AAR out of the way. After that, we'll...
So at this point, what I'd have done, I'd have instead of using like a timing system, I basically just had a radio set up. So over here at the top, that's the first intro. When he paused, he was going to be cut off. So then I would just quickly open up the radio section and do this.
Calling to the operations and QRA. This is the Black Dog Master Controller. 4 quick reaction alerts. Scramble, scramble, scramble.
So as you can see, the aircraft was building up. At this point, I'm going to wait for everyone to build up. The music will last however long that will take, basically. And then once everyone's boarded up, I simply, whenever I need to, go into the radio system and then do the intro again. Yeah, the executes the flight sequence and then the fade-in transition, right? This dialogue on the top of the screen basically just indicates it's an error, which I haven't fixed, but it won't come up in the game for anyone, so...
The nearby city of Chapoy is presently under siege from a Corvette-class Covenant vessel. Use of orbital rounds has been, for the moment, authorized. The garrison on Victory Island has been overwhelmed and is no longer in a position to fulfill this order. Havok Company will attend the site and prime the batteries for launch. An uplink connection must be established sites before they can fire. Intelligence from our reconnaissance flight shows Covenant forces spread throughout the island with overlapping lanes of fire. Extreme caution is advised as the company advances.
So you can see how we got this like really nice cinematic flight sequence in that's all like pretty scripted, and you know, human players are great if that's you know, part of your unit's structure. But for us, as I say, an infantry-focused unit, pretty scripting all of this allows for so much nice introductions. Another unit I played in, some of the people were better than others at flying. So what you'd have is like some aircraft like take 2 minutes to land, whereas others could like land very quickly. And it was just, you couldn't get these types of cinematics, but you did at the end of the day have real pilots. So I suppose it depends on what you want out of an experience as a unit. But personally, this has always been what I wanted if I was a mission maker. As a pilot, I would like to fly, of course, because that's my experience. But you know, that's how you can execute a flight sequence to a cinematic and dramatic kind of effect. If you go through some of the other videos on my channel, Tip of the Spear, for example, that's one of another unit member's missions called Smith. That was basically a replication of the mission of the same name from Halo Reach. Loads of like Banshee strafings coming in and stuff like that. So, you know, you can do it as, you can be as wild as you want, basically, with it. So, yeah. Other than that, I don't think I have the strength to talk about much more. That covers the majority of setting up arsenals, basically your own composition to play around with. You can add other sections like Pelican crash sites and drop pod respawn points, depending on what you need. But just take away using the folders, how to use slideshows, the HEV pods and stuff, which I'll provide a link down below. Teleports, again, I'll provide the link down below. And then just detail it out however you want. You know, you're only limited by your own imagination. So, you know, you can decorate your ship with these like little server racks. You know, instead of it being just an empty corridor, you got a bit more, you know, interesting stuff. You got like these little vending walls which you can put in the wall. I've got personally with these an invisible wall here that basically, just like with giving you a full A seal, instead of giving you a full A seal, it will give you an A seal and it will play a voice line, and then it will also add a can of Fanta, a soda, to your inventory. So you can literally go up to one of these vending machines, scroll on it, it will give you a can of Coke or whatever, you know, and it'll play a little sound effect for that. So you know, you can make these environments as immersive and as engaging as you want, or you can just like make it as basic. Really, you know, once you've done the composition once and you have it saved, you can go fucking mad with it, because you can just keep on adding to it and like making it a much more enjoyable experience. So yeah, I'm gonna leave that here for today. Tomorrow what I'll do is I'll probably do another stream, or maybe even later today. I need to give my voice a break first, because I've been talking for near enough 3 hours. But once I've had a little rest, I'll continue, and then we'll go on to the actual like mission building and how I build like environments and stuff like that, and you know, all the scripts and stuff like that, and the tricks I use to make my missions like an immersive experience. So as with these modules and stuff like this, for a mission like a unit and whatever, you don't really have to worry about these. Basically, this is stuff that I presume most people would already be aware about, but it's dependent on what you've got loaded as a mod. The HUD control modules. This is basically if you use the Optree HUD visor, you can tell you can basically put the friend or foe indicator and select whatever you need to use. This is a redundant resource because we actually use a different mod, Misery Armory HUD, which is a different entity itself. Headquarters entity. This is basically if you wanted to give a new respawn point or put command orders. You know, when you have like down at the bottom left in chat, it has like radio comms that come up, so like reinforcements en route, or defend this site, or something like that. You might already be familiar with that with base game armor. This is how you get that type of stuff to appear. So you just call the call sign whatever you want, And then if I created a respawn point dynamically in the mission, instead of it just like coming up with some random bullshit, it would actually like display as battalion headquarters respawn created in chat. So that's that. Friendly fire messages, basically just turns them on. Fortify, this is only if you need to use the fortify tool. So if you include that in the arsenal to like build structures and stuff like that, you just need one of these down and you can indicate like what type of assets you want. I don't really fuck with this at all. You can add custom items and stuff like that, but it's via an SQF file, and you have to individually list every single item that you want. So I usually just use the Optry standard, and to be fair, we don't use this too much anyway, so yeah, only if you want fortification. The basic channel setup, if you want to give people a default Acre radio, or TFAR radio, whatever you're using, it would be a different module for this, but specifically with Acre. You just go through these. We want people to spawn with no radios as default, so we just leave these blank and then have it all set up like that, so you don't spawn with them. And then the channels of the radios itself, so if you had a 148, for example, on the actual display, you can put the channel types here, so 1, 2, 1, 1, HQ, Zeus, however you want it listed out. That's out of date, so not really, not current. But you can see how it's all structured, and then when you're in the game, you open up your radio and it's listed on it. So these two are just Zeus ones, so you just have them connected. Nothing crazy about that. And yeah, so I think that's it. I think I'm done. So I appreciate anyone that's stuck by during the live stream. I see there's a few people connected who've dotted around now and then. A few chatters, appreciate that. If you have any questions and stuff like that in any future streams, feel free to ask. I'm happy to go on and explain stuff in more detail, but this is basically just the bare bones minimum of what you should know, hopefully, to begin your mission making process. So with that being said, I will bid you all good night. I will see you when I am next online, and yeah, take care.